I was clearly training in martial arts. How I became a being with supernatural powers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301 Monster. Roar. In the deep and silent forest, a beast roared through the clouds and cracked the rocks, shaking the four directions. Even though they were far apart, Qin Yang still felt his mind shaken when he heard the beast roar and subconsciously circulated his body, protecting energy. However, he quickly reacted, suppressed the rolling energy, and looked into the distance. Countless birds flew out of the sky above the forest, making various sharp calls, densely packed in a large area, and swept towards the distance. There were also many wild beasts that were startled and roared in a panic. Big insects, giant pythons, black bears. These wild beasts that usually dominate the forest became extremely uneasy. Could this roar be the resurrection of the old white dragon? Qin Yang subconsciously thought of the legend of the white dragon stone mountain. The old dragon has been dead for too long, and this doesn't look like a dragon roar, so it shouldn't be it. Maybe a beast has awakened the blood of monster. Zhao Zinmo looked in the direction of the roar, his eyes filled with surprise and curiosity. Monster? Qin Yang was stunned. Well, in the mythological era, in addition to the immortals and Buddhas, there are also many prehistoric beasts. The power of these prehistoric beasts is no less than that of immortals and Buddhas. They can fly into the sky and hide in the ground, move mountains and fill the sea. They are very terrifying. Their descendants also inherited some of their power and are called monsters. However, after the Great Qin Kingdom, the ghost species and the bloodline of immortals and Buddhas disappeared one after another, and the monsters gradually disappeared. Only some clues can be found in some ancient books. Zhao Zinmo explained. Immortals and Buddhas, ghost species, prehistoric beasts. Qin Yang muttered to himself. At first, he came here through time and thought that this was just an ordinary ancient world, but there were martial arts masters. Now he found that this world was changing unconsciously. More and more beings with incredible power appeared. This is simply a mythological world. Let's go and take a look. I also want to know if it is a monster, Zhao Zinmo suggested. Then let's go. Qin Yang had the same mentality. The two figures quickly flashed through the mountains and forests, heading towards the roar of the beast. After a cup of tea, they came to the highest point of a dark valley and hid behind a huge rock. Is this a demon beast? Qin Yang looked at the strong and huge figure in the depths of the valley. His expression slightly changed. It should look quite fierce. Zhao Zinmo's tone was a little excited, as if he was very interested in this demon beast. A giant ape more than 5 meters tall was seen rampaging wildly in the valley. The ape had scarlet hair all over its body, hideous muscles, slender arms, and sharp claws. The head was thick and fierce, with a face like a human face, and like Shura, with a pair of curved giant horns on the top of its head. The Shura giant ape also held a tiger in its hand, and opened its bloody mouth. There were a few clicks. An adult insect was bitten to pieces, and swallowed into its stomach. Demon beasts are powerful, but most of them have no humanity, only animal nature, violent and bloody personality, and they will want to attack when they see living beings, and they will not stop until they die. This Shura ape is such a fierce demon, Zhao Zinmo said in a low voice. Look, the people from the Lisha sect are coming, Qin Yang said with a smile. The Ashura ape made such a big noise that the people from the Lisha sect would naturally notice it. It might be that it had been dominating the White Dragonstone Mountain for too long, or it might be that it had no knowledge of monsters. After all, people like Zhao Zinmo are always different. 2 patrol teams from the Lisha sect rushed into the valley so recklessly. When the Lisha sect disciples saw the giant ape with scarlet hair and a face like the ferocious and terrifying Ashura, they were naturally horrified. Go. One of the patrol leaders was relatively calm. Judging from the size of such a big guy, they knew that they could not deal with it. Hearing this shout, the patrol disciples finally came to their senses and turned to flee the valley. But when the Ashura giant ape saw these Lisha sect disciples, a fierce light flashed in its eyes and it roared again. Its 2 thighs suddenly burst out with terrible power, and its slender and sharp palms swung out violently. Ah, I know. Qin Yang also understood this and continued to hide behind the boulder. The destruction of the two patrol teams naturally attracted more people from the Leisha sect. But this time, they did not act rashly, but just closed the entrance to the valley. About an incense stick later, a figure walked into the valley. This person was a bald man with thick hands, and walked like thunder. Looking at these hands, the master of the 5 Qis should be good at boxing and kicking. Qin Yang gave his own evaluation at a glance. How long do you think this guy can hold off the Shura giant ape? Zhao Zinmo's meaning was very clear. He was not optimistic that the bald man could beat the Shura giant ape. 3 moves should be enough. Qin Yang gave his own evaluation. You are more ruthless than me, Zhao Zinmo said speechlessly. The next moment, the bald man saw the Shura giant ape in the center of the valley with a solemn expression. But the Ashura giant ape also saw the bald man and felt his momentum. He suddenly lifted a 2-meter high boulder and smashed it towards the bald man. Boom. The boulder smashed towards the bald man like a meteor. Because the force and speed were too explosive, and the friction between the boulder and the air was too fierce, it actually burned directly and turned into a fireball. The bald man hurriedly circulated the vital energy in his body. Boom. As the vital energy circulated, it sounded like thunder. Thunder palm. The bald man roared and hit hard with his palm. Boom. The palm hit the flint hard. With a loud bang, the whole stone exploded into pieces. The bald man also screamed. The impact of the boulder was too terrible, causing his entire arm to explode. The next moment, the Ashura giant ape appeared in front of the bald man and slapped his big hand. The bald man didn't even recover his balance before he was hit hard. Boom. The valley roared and shook. Chapter 302 Mineral Veins. It seems that I really underestimated this Ashura giant ape. It couldn't even last 3 moves. Zhao Zinmo looked at the pool of flesh in the deep valley and shook his head. Even a warrior in the 5 Qis to Yuan realm couldn't resist 3 moves. The horror of this Ashura giant ape can be seen. You said that this giant ape has just awakened its bloodline? Qin Yang was in doubt. It should be that this Ashura giant ape may be just an ordinary ape in the mountains and forests. It only became like this because of the revival of spiritual energy and the stimulation of blood in the body. Look at its hair, it is blood red, and a large part of it is dyed with blood. Because the physical body changed too much, the flesh and blood broke through the skin. Zhao Zinmo kept saying. So perverted. Qin Yang's eyes condensed. Among the human race, even those with excellent talents need decades of hard work to cultivate to the Tangsuan realm. Even if he himself carried a proficiency panel, he spent several years practicing hard. But this Ashura giant ape didn't have to do anything, just stimulated the blood in his body to gain such a huge power. The gap is a bit big. We humans also have the blood of immortals and Buddhas. They are all perverts anyway. But I think none of them are as perverted as you. Zhao Zinmo laughed. Qin Yang shook his head speechlessly. After the bald man was crushed into a pulp by the Ashura giant ape, the people of the Thunder Demon sect never dared to go in again, and even stayed away. This is an opportunity for us. This Ashura giant ape attracts the attention of the Thunder Demon sect for us. In this way, it will be easier for us to find the Wuhur Immortal Palace. Qin Yang said softly. That's right. Now take a look, and continue to look. Zhao Zinmo nodded. There is no point in staying in this valley and watching the Ashura giant ape. The two left quietly and explored the White Dragonstone Mountain again. In the next few days, they rarely encountered the patrol team of the Thunder Demon sect, but occasionally there were a few terrifying bistros. There is no need to think. It must be that the Thunder Demon sect and the Ashura giant ape are fighting again. Qin Yang and Zhao Zinmo are naturally happy to see this happen. 5 days later, the sun sets. Zhao Zinmo saw an ancient mountain and then showed an ecstatic look. Qin Yang, look, I feel that this mountain is the one on the map. Qin Yang heard this and took the map of the secret realm of Wuhur Immortal Mansion from Zhao Zinmo's hand and took a closer look. Although the mountain has changed a lot, the outline of the nearby mountains can be seen, and it should be the same place. It's here. Qin Yang couldn't help but smile. After searching in this desolate mountain for so many days, I finally found it. But there seems to be smoke rising there. Zhao Zinmo looked at the smoke rising from the mountain and frowned slightly. There is only one situation in which smoke will appear in the White Dragonstone Mountain. That is the mine. This smoke is the people in the mine making fire to cook. Go and have a look, Qin Yang said in a deep voice. The two quickly sneaked into the ancient mountain. The trees on this mountain are extremely lush, but there is only a bare patch on the mountainside. The miners here, with a large area of tents. It was now dark, and many bonfires were lit in the tent camps. The miners were making fires to cook. To mine in the White Dragonstone Mountain, one could only live near the mines, and could only go back for a few days every 3 months. It really is a mine. And in this mountain, I felt an unusually rich spiritual energy. I'm afraid it's still a spiritual stone mine, Zhao Zinmo said in a deep voice. Qin Yang was observing the camp. There were many Lisha disciples patrolling the periphery, and they were on high alert. This is a spiritual stone mine, and many people will be concerned about it. For spiritual masters, spiritual stones are naturally very important. But for warriors, spiritual stones are also very useful. Because some special pills need to be refined with spiritual stones, which can provide warriors with magnificent essence. Not to mention that they have to prevent the miners from escaping. Because this spiritual stone mine is rich in spiritual energy and is in the belly of the mountain with rich yin energy, evil spirits often breed, and some mines collapse. The whole environment can be said to be very dangerous. Especially during this period, there are more and more evil spirits. It really won't work if we don't add a little more manpower to keep an eye on the miners. The strongest guy should be inside. Qin Yang pointed to a white tent. This tent was much larger than the others, and it was exquisite and luxurious. At this moment, the white tent was lit up with candlelight, and a figure could be vaguely seen meditating and regulating his breath. It is probably a warrior who has reached the 5 keys converging to the origin. He is not a big threat. It's just that there are too many miners here. When we find the Wuhur Immortal Palace, there will be some noise. In this way, we will still be discovered by the people of the Thunder Demon sect. Zhao Zinmo frowned. This warrior who has reached the 5 keys converging to the origin is not scary. Even if Qin Yang does not take action, he can still solve it by attacking in secret. But the Thunder Demon sect has too deep a foundation. Once they find that there is an immortal palace here, they may even send the martial saint here. Before that, let's first determine the location of the Wuhur Immortal Palace. Qin Yang looked at the entrance to the mine in the distance, and said in a deep voice. They found this mountain, but they haven't found the Wuhur Immortal Palace yet. Then we have to look for it again. This map only records this place, Zhao Zinmo said. Then we can only go into the mine to look for it. But the entrance is guarded by Lisha disciples. Qin Yang frowned slightly. I saw that the entrance of the mine was guarded by more than a dozen Lisha disciples. The white tent was also very close to the entrance, and the master of the 5 keys would be able to react quickly. Zhao Zinmo also began to rack his brains to think of a way to sneak in. But after thinking of many ways, he was not very satisfied, so he could only shake his head helplessly. I heard that in the mythological era, there were spiritual masters who controlled the escape technique, and the 5 element could escape. Unfortunately, I can't. Zhao Zinmo sighed. Then make a big noise. Qin Yang smiled slightly. What do you want? Zhao Zinmo asked. It's very simple. Qin Yang secretly sent a few words to Zhao Zinmo. You are really mean. Zhao Zinmo smiled. Just tell me if you can do it. Qin Yang smiled. Of course. Zhao Zinmo nodded directly. The two of them no longer hesitated and left the mine directly and flew in another direction. Not long after, the two came to a dark valley. This is the valley where the giant Shura ape is. These days, the Lisha sect also sent an elder of the Tangxuan realm to deal with the giant Shura ape, but he was beaten to death in the end. In desperation, the Lisha sect could only send the deputy leader who had reached the half-step martial saint. This deputy sect leader was much more cautious. He did not go directly to the giant Shura ape for trouble, but evacuated all the Lisha sect disciples who were in the closed valley. He spent a few days observing this ferocious beast, and found that the other party had a strong sense of territory, but only moved around in this hilltop. And there was only one worthless mineral vein on this hilltop. When the deputy sect leader saw this situation, he simply gave up the mineral vein, and ordered people to mark it as a restricted area. As long as the giant Shura ape did not run out, he would not take action. Chapter 303 Turmoil. Hoo 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 hoo. The snoring sound like the push and pull of a bellows echoed throughout the valley. The Azura giant ape was lying deep in the valley, leaning against the stone wall and sleeping soundly. After awakening the bloodline of an ordinary beast and gaining such a huge power, it still maintained the habits of a beast and would not leave this mountain forest. Qin Yang and Zhao Zinmo came to the boulder above the valley again. "Do you really have a way?" Qin Yang asked Zhao Zinmo. "Nonsense, just watch." Zhao Zinmo smiled. He dug a ball of soil from the ground with both hands and then kneaded it into a palm-sized clay figure. This clay figure needs strong blood essence to attract the attention of the Azura blood ape. He looked at Qin Yang, and the meaning was self-evident. Qin Yang bit his finger, and a drop of blood dripped onto the head of the clay figure. Seeing this, Zhao Zinmo hurriedly took out a talisman paper to seal the drop of blood. Instantly, the talisman paper was spread by the blood, and an ancient rune emerged. The clay figurine seemed to be endowed with life and actually started to move. However, after a few steps, it fell to the ground. "This is the first time I use this secret technique. Let me get familiar with it first." Zhao Zinmo was a little embarrassed. Qin Yang was speechless. After practicing several times, Zhao Zinmo finally mastered this secret technique and controlled the clay figurine to go towards the Shura giant ape. When the little clay figurine entered the valley, the Shura giant ape, which was originally sleeping, suddenly woke up. It felt a frightening and fierce breath. It seemed that some terrifying beast had entered its territory. This was undoubtedly a provocation for the Shura giant ape. Roar. The Shura giant ape let out a fierce roar, and its spirit became extremely irritable. Its big eyes were full of scarlet, and it kept looking around the valley, as if looking for something. Finally, it roared and rushed towards the valley. Boom. The Shura giant ape rushed through the mountains and forests, knocking down patches of mountains and trees, and the movement was extremely loud. What's going on? Why is the Azura giant ape alarmed? On a nearby mountaintop, a purple-robed man suddenly opened his eyes. He was Yan Zuan, the deputy leader of the Lisha sect. He had been observing the Azura giant ape these days. The Lisha sect has been passed down for a long time, and naturally there are records of monsters. So Yan Zuan himself didn't want to fight with the Azura giant ape. As long as the other party was only active in a forest, he didn't need to pay too much attention. He thought that, if nothing happened tonight, he would return to the Lisha sect. Unexpectedly, something happened. He hurriedly got up and chased after the Azura giant ape. He wanted to find out why the Azura giant ape went crazy. Boom. After half an hour of chasing, the Azura giant ape finally stopped. It chased to a mine camp. What kind of monster is this? So scary. Run. The miners who were still resting were all alarmed. When they walked out of the tent and saw the Azura giant ape, they were instantly frightened and panicked. You should know that the Azura giant ape itself is hideous and terrifying, with blood all over its body. It is still late at night, and it is as terrifying as a ghost. The Lisha sect master who lives in the white tent also came out quickly. When he saw the Azura giant ape, his soul was instantly scared. He naturally knew about the Azura giant ape. No. Didn't deputy sect leader Yan say that this Azura giant ape would not run out of its territory? The Lisha sect master's heart sank. The Azura giant ape looked around the camp, but found that the breath that frightened it had disappeared. When the Lisha sect master came out, the Azura giant ape roared wildly and rushed towards him. Bang! The Lisha sect master barely blocked 2 moves and was swallowed by the Azura giant ape. Run. Even the supervisor was killed. If you don't run, you will die. In an instant, the camp became extremely chaotic and many miners fled frantically. Even the Lisha sect disciples did not stop them, but followed them and fled. The Azura giant ape roared wildly, rushed into the crowd, and started killing people. In a short time, there were countless casualties. Soon, a brazier fell to the ground, igniting the entire camp and turning it into a sea of fire. Seeing this scene, the Lisha sect disciples who were originally guarding the entrance to the mine naturally would not stay at their posts and fled. Then, without anyone noticing, 2 figures quietly sneaked into the mine. Qin Yang, your trick is really sinister. The Lisha sect was killed by your calculation. Zhao Zinmo smiled. This was Qin Yang's calculation. He cast a spell to attract the Azura giant ape to create chaos, and the 2 of them could sneak into the cave. The people of the Lisha sect could not know why the Azura giant ape suddenly went crazy and came here. because the Azura giant ape obviously could not communicate. Sneaking in is just the first step. Let's celebrate after we find the Wuhur Immortal Mansion. Qin Yang looked at the dark and deep mine tunnel with a calm face. That's true. If we can't find Wuhur Immortal Palace, everything is just empty talk. Zhao Zinmo nodded. He took out a round jade pendant. As soon as the jade pendant appeared, it emitted a soft light, illuminating the mine tunnel. I feel that Wuhur Immortal Palace is most likely to be in the place with the most spiritual energy. So we should first find the place with the most spiritual energy in the ore vein. Zhao Zinmo said softly. Then how do we find it? Qin Yang naturally didn't have the means to sense the rich spiritual energy. Look at this jade pendant. The brighter the light, the richer the spiritual energy. Zhao Zinmo said. This method is simple. Qin Yang smiled. The two began to go deep into the ore vein. This ore vein may not have been discovered for too long. It is not like the old ore veins, where the mine tunnels are dense and complex like a spider web. Whenever they came to a fork in the road, Zhao Zinmo would test it with the jade pendant to see which side caused the jade pendant to be brighter, and then go to that mine tunnel. Ding ding ding. After walking for half an hour, they suddenly heard some knocking sounds. They should be miners digging in the spiritual stone mine. There are miners digging in this spiritual stone mine day and night. They are in the mine and don't know what is happening outside. Zhao Zinmo sent a message to Qin Yang. Then avoid them. Qin Yang replied. He naturally didn't want to expose his whereabouts. These miners are just ordinary people, so it's not difficult to avoid them. And as the two of them continued to go deeper into the spiritual stone mine, the light emitted by the jade pendant in Zhao Zinmo's hand was indeed stronger than before. At this time, Qin Yang suddenly heard some conversations. It seemed that there were miners in front of them taking a break and chatting. I don't know when we will stop digging here all day long. I heard that spiritual energy is very harmful to the human body. If we dig for a few more years, I'm afraid we will all die here. But the Lisha sect is watching so strictly that it's difficult for us to run away. Damn Lisha sect. The tone of these miners seemed very resentful. Zhao Zinmo explained in a voice transmission. Spirit stones are great tonics for us, but ordinary people cannot withstand the spiritual energy emitted by spirit stones. For them, spirit stones are deadly chronic poisons. The longer they are in contact with them, the more diseases they will develop in their bodies. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304, Destruction. It's so dangerous. Why do you still come to mine? Qin Yang asked curiously. This is the area ruled by the sect. For these ordinary people, the sect is an invincible mountain. I guess they were forced to come here. Zhao Zinmo shook his head slightly. Qin Yang said no more, and the two continued to walk deeper into the mine. The further they went, the fewer miners there were, and finally they came to an abandoned stone chamber. This abandoned stone chamber was very simple. It might have been a place for miners to rest. There was nothing in it. There were just a few dusty chairs and tables placed randomly, and some abandoned doors were piled in the corner. However, the jade pendant that had been emitting soft light suddenly went out after entering this stone chamber. What's going on? Qin Yang looked at Zhao Zinmo. Zhao Zinmo also frowned and picked up the jade pendant to study it. It seems that some kind of power is interfering. Zhao Zinmo frowned. He walked around the stone chamber with the jade pendant. Finally, he looked at the stone wall at the deepest part of the stone chamber. I feel that the interfering force comes from behind. Zhao Zinmo said. He is very sensitive to energy. If it were an ordinary person, he would only think that this is an abandoned mine. Behind. Qin Yang came to the stone wall and placed his hand on the rough and uneven rock. Finally, Qin Yang's right hand flashed with a sharp platinum light, and his 5 fingers were put together and suddenly inserted into the stone wall. Puff! The hard stone wall was too fragile in front of Qin Yang's hand knife. It's empty inside. Qin Yang said lightly. Wait a minute. Zhao Zinmo took out a jade token and inserted it into the entrance of the stone chamber. But an invisible force dissipated and formed a barrier. The function of this barrier is only one. to isolate the sound and prevent the outside world from noticing the movement here. After doing everything, he nodded to Qin Yang. Qin Yang no longer hesitated, and his arm shook violently. Bang! The entire stone wall collapsed and shattered. A dark ruin suddenly appeared in the eyes of Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo. It's really behind. If the miners had dug deeper, we would have made a wasted trip, Zhao Xinmo said thankfully. Let's go in and see what the Wuhua Immortal Mansion secret realm looks like. Qin Yang became a little excited. He came all the way from Kunshan continent to Xianfeng continent just for this Immortal Mansion secret realm. He naturally wanted to see what this Immortal Mansion secret realm looked like. Zhao Xinmo was much more excited than Qin Yang, but he still followed Qin Yang very carefully and reminded him, don't be careless. This Immortal Mansion secret realm has not only opportunities, but also great terror. Many Immortal Mansion secret realms are full of various dangers. Because this was once the residence of immortals and Buddhas, various restrictions were naturally arranged. Even though countless years have passed, these restrictions have become incomplete and their power has been greatly reduced. But for them, they are still a huge threat. Yeah. Qin Yang did not dare to be careless. The two walked into this dark ruins carefully. This time, since the jade pendant no longer glowed, Qin Yang lit the fire and observed the front. This ruin seemed to be a courtyard, and it was desolate and barren everywhere. The walls were covered with grey and dry vines, and the ground was covered with broken stones, tiles, and porcelain pieces. Qin Yang started to circulate the Hunyuan key, and a shadow of a black tortoise appeared vaguely, covering his whole body. He sent a voice message to Zhao Xinmo. I'll go in first. If there is anything unusual later, you run first. Don't worry about me. Don't worry. Zhao Xinmo replied. He couldn't help much in the crisis that could put Qin Yang in, so it's better to run away first, so that Qin Yang doesn't have to worry about himself. Qin Yang immediately walked into the ruined courtyard. The courtyard was grey walls and black tiles, dark and difficult to see. There seemed to be no color here, only grey and black colors. Decay, grey, dead, and desolate. Seeing this scene, Qin Yang's mind was filled with many negative and extreme emotions. His eyes flickered. He seemed to see a grey world without any life or color. The earth cracked, the mountains and forests collapsed, and the rivers dried up. There was no life or death here, only endless desolation, ruin, and gloom. But Qin Yang just shook his head and broke free from this illusion. Every time he practiced Bidao Zen Wuzu and Gong, he would fall into that desolate Dead Sea. He had long been accustomed to this emotion. But when he looked at Zhao Xinmo, he found that the other party was also standing there, motionless. His eyes slowly changed from solemn to horrified, and then to grey, as if losing their luster. Qin Yang frowned slightly, but did not choose to interfere with Zhao Xinmo. In this situation, his intervention would only make the situation worse, and Zhao Xinmo could only bear it. If he couldn't bear it, his soul would be assimilated by this grey courtyard, and become a part of it. After a cup of tea, Zhao Xinmo suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. He was shocked, and broke into a cold sweat. It's hard to guard against. I almost didn't wake up. He was almost trapped in that grey world. Be careful, there may be more terrifying things later, Qin Yang reminded. Zhao Xinmo nodded. The two began to observe the courtyard. This seemed to be a place of seclusion. There were 2 stone benches and a stone table in the middle of the courtyard. In the back was a simple stone house. Is this the secret realm of the Immortal Mansion? Qin Yang asked in surprise. No. This is the place where the secret realm of the Immortal Mansion and the real world are connected. We still need to find the entrance, Zhao Xinmo said. How do we find it? Qin Yang looked curious. I don't know, so I can only rely on fate, Zhao Xinmo said. Then let's go into this house first. Eliminate all dangers first, Qin Yang said lightly. I will set up the barrier first. Zhao Xinmo put down another jade pendant at the entrance of the courtyard. The barrier formed by this jade pendant isolates the fluctuations of spiritual energy. Because the opening of the secret realm of the Immortal Mansion caused a large amount of spiritual energy fluctuations. Of course, the barrier of this jade pendant cannot isolate all the fluctuations of spiritual energy, but can only isolate most of them. After Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo finished the arrangement, he walked into the stone house. The stone house was empty, with a grey stone platform in the middle. A palm-sized three-legged copper furnace was placed on the grey stone platform. Qin Yang also saw a hint of dark green in the three-legged copper furnace. Although this hint of dark green was very dim, it was extremely conspicuous in this grey ruins. It was a small dead branch. The dead branch was casually inserted into the three-legged copper furnace, and a hint of dark green appeared faintly. It seems to be this dead branch, Qin Yang said lightly. This hint was too obvious. It should be. Zhao Xinmo nodded. Then how to do it? Qin Yang asked. Put your hand on it to open the secret realm of the immortal mansion. Zhao Xinmo paused, and then said, but after we enter the secret realm of the immortal mansion, leave as soon as possible. The people of the Lisha sect may still find out what's going on here. The longer it drags on, the more disadvantageous it is for us. Qin Yang nodded, adjusted the key in his body, and gently placed his hand on the dark green dead branch. Buzz invisible and huge spiritual energy fluctuations emanated from the dark green dead branch. The next moment, Qin Yang disappeared directly in Zhao Xinmo's eyes. Chapter 305 Giant Tree. The spiritual pressure fluctuations emitted by the dead branch were too strong. Even Zhao Xinmo was suppressed, and hurriedly used his own magic power to resist. After a while, the huge spiritual pressure slowly dissipated. Such a terrifying spiritual pressure. If it is activated again, my jade pendant should not be able to resist it. Zhao Xinmo shook his head. However, the Shura giant ape should still be wreaking havoc in the mine camp. Even if the spiritual energy fluctuations dissipate, the people of the Lisha sect may not be able to detect it. When he looked at the dead branch, he was slightly stunned. The dark green color that was vaguely emerging before became even darker. If you don't look carefully, it is difficult to find that dark green color. It seems that the spiritual energy of this dead branch should be almost exhausted. I don't know if it is enough to activate it again. Zhao Xinmo put his hand on the dead branch with some trepidation. Buzz, the huge spiritual pressure appeared again. Zhao Xinmo's figure also disappeared in the simple stone house. Everything returned to the grey color as before. The dead branch completely lost its dark green color, leaving only dry black. As the spiritual pressure spread out, the jade pendant that Zhao Xinmo placed at the entrance of the courtyard could no longer bear it, and several cracks quickly appeared, and then suddenly broke apart. A huge spiritual energy fluctuation suddenly emanated from the spiritual stone vein. Some miners who were mining suddenly felt very uncomfortable, dizzy, as if they were short of oxygen. Some people couldn't even breathe and fell to the ground. For a time, even the spiritual stone vein was in chaos. Many miners didn't know what was going on, so they could only take their unconscious companions out of the mine. Miners' camp. The Ashura giant ape killed all around, completely destroyed the camp, and then returned to its valley nest. Yan Zuan, the deputy leader of the Lisha sect, hid in the dark, watching the Ashura giant ape take action, but had no intention of taking action. This beast is finally gone. I don't know why it went crazy tonight. Yan Zuan frowned, then shook his head. Forget it. This demon beast awakened its bloodline, and is also a beast. Naturally, you can't use human thinking to guess it. At this moment, his heart trembled, and he looked in the direction of the mine in surprise. He felt some strange fluctuations. What happened to the spiritual stone vein again? Yan Zuan frowned. He took out a dark blue small sword from his arms. As soon as the small sword appeared, it suddenly burst into brilliant blue light. Such a rich spiritual energy. Yan Zuan's eyes were horrified. Obviously, this dark blue small sword, like the jade pendant in Zhao Xinmo's hand, can sense spiritual energy. And the more spiritual energy it senses, the brighter the light. His figure flashed, and suddenly went towards the spiritual stone vein. This kind of spiritual energy fluctuation is definitely not normal. Is this the secret realm of Wuhur Immortal Mansion? Qin Yang looked at the grey world in front of him with a look of surprise. The color of this world is only grey. The vast dark grey land, with many strange black stones on the ground. There are no mountains or rivers. In the distance, there is a grey giant tree like a pillar of heaven. The branches of the giant tree are densely packed, spreading across the sky, covering the entire sky. Even now Qin Yang looked up. He could see the grey branches intertwined in the sky. This scene opened Qin Yang's eyes. This tree should be the key. Qin Yang's eyes were fixed on the grey giant tree. However, he did not move, but waited for a while. But after a while, Zhao Xinmo still did not appear. No, Qin Yang frowned. If things went well, Zhao Zinmo should have come in now. But now he has not appeared. He must have encountered a special situation. But he is now in the secret realm of the Immortal Mansion, and he does not know what the situation is outside, so he can only wait for a while. Zhao Zinmo still did not appear. Qin Yang no longer waited, and went to the Grey Giant Tree. This Immortal Mansion secret realm looks quite desolate. Qin Yang walked for a long time, but nothing unusual happened. There was only a piece of desolate grey, and he found that he seemed to be no closer to the Grey Giant Tree. This time he did not hold back, and burst out the thunder step directly, turning into a thunder, and running towards the Grey Giant Tree. A human-shaped lightning became the only color of this grey land. Half an hour later, Qin Yang stopped and looked at the dark giant tree again. The distance seemed to be no closer, but he ran for half an hour, at least hundreds of miles. It was impossible that he was not close. Is my direction wrong? Qin Yang frowned slightly. He felt that he should not look the Grey Giant Tree with his naked eyes. This time, Qin Yang closed his eyes. He felt the energy of this secret realm. Invisibly, the Grey Giant Tree appeared in Qin Yang's mind again. This time, Qin Yang did not hesitate, and rushed towards the Grey Giant Tree. During the running process, he closed his eyes the whole time. After more than 10 breaths, Qin Yang suddenly stopped. In the picture in his mind, he was now standing under the Grey Giant Tree, and Qin Yang. He also chose to believe in his heart. He opened his eyes. What he saw was the rough and grey huge tree body. So that's it. This tree exists anywhere in this secret realm. Just need your own heart to believe that this tree is in front of you. Qin Yang understood. He carefully observed a grey and dead tree. It was too huge, like a pillar of heaven, and the entire root area was probably as large as a Yangning County city. In front of this dead tree, Qin Yang felt insignificant. It was hard to imagine what it would be like if this dead tree had not withered. Suddenly, Qin Yang felt a chill somewhere in his body. He was stunned at first, and then took out a black tortoise jade pendant from his arms. This was something that appeared on him inexplicably when he left the ruins of the Xuanwu sect. The black tortoise jade pendant was emitting a faint mysterious light and vibrating gently. Then, a rotten arm gently picked up the black tortoise jade pendant. With Qin Yang's reaction and alertness, he should have discovered it at the first time. But he did not move, because he did not react until the black tortoise jade pendant left his palm. The breath of an old friend of vicissitudes and long sigh. I don't know why. Just hearing this voice, Qin Yang felt a heavy and indescribable breath of time rushing towards him. He looked at it. An old man appeared in front of him. The old man was tall and thin, with an old face, as if he had been decayed by time for countless years. Senior. Qin Yang clasped his fists respectfully. The old monster who could appear in the secret realm of the Immortal Mansion was definitely not someone he could afford to offend. Keep this jade pendant. The decayed old man put the black tortoise jade pendant back in Qin Yang's hand, and then said, you can come in, which means that the forbidden technique of isolating the world should be invalid. Senior is right, but the forbidden technique of isolating the world has not completely expired yet. But I think it will be soon. Qin Yang said softly. The great catastrophe of heaven and earth is finally here. The decayed old man sighed slightly. Chapter 306 Dead Tree. Qin Yang stood beside the decayed old man in silence. Boy, what's your name? The decayed old man asked. Qin Yang. Qin Yang said in a deep voice. The decayed old man nodded and said, you were the first to enter the Immortal Mansion secret realm after the spiritual energy was revived, which shows that you are destined to be with me. This dead tree immortal sutra will be passed on to you. As he said that, the decayed old man suddenly pointed a finger at the center of Qin Yang's brow. Qin Yang's mind instantly had a lot of obscure and mysterious information. Boom, at this moment, the entire grey world seemed to begin to collapse and shook wildly. Qin Yang raised his head. It turned out that this grey giant tree was decaying rapidly. The dark branches covering the sky kept falling from the sky like raindrops. Without the support of these branches, this side of the sky seemed to collapse. The Immortal Mansion secret realm is going to be destroyed. I'll send you away now. The decayed old man said lightly. Senior, are you the master of this Wuhur Immortal Mansion? Qin Yang asked hurriedly. He had been guessing the identity of this decayed old man. No. After the battle, no immortals or Buddhas survived. I'm just an old tree enlightened by the Deadwood Immortal Lord. Young man, you have to remember. Don't think that the immortals and Buddhas are still here. They have long since perished. You have to rely on yourself. The decayed old man smiled slightly. His body was also collapsing. The decayed giant tree was actually his body. For so many years, he had been silently supporting the secret realm of the Immortal Mansion and preventing it from collapsing. He had already exhausted all his vitality. Now that he had handed over the inheritance of the Deadwood Immortal Lord to Qin Yang, the decayed old man could no longer hold on. Young man, remember to take that spiritual bud away. That was a seed planted by the Immortal Lord in the past. Maybe it will be useful in the future. The decayed old man's voice reached Qin Yang's ears. Qin Yang wanted to say something, but he found himself back in that stone house. Swish. Zhao Zinmo also appeared beside Qin Yang the next moment. His face was pale. Qin Yang, you also saw the collapse of the Immortal Mansion Secret Realm. He was just in the Immortal Mansion Secret Realm world, walking towards the grey giant tree, and then the Immortal Mansion world began to collapse. Zhao Zinmo originally thought that he would be destroyed with the collapse of the world. In the end, he was sent out. I know to leave here first. I'll tell you later. Qin Yang said quickly. He wanted to take the dead branch away according to the instructions of the decayed old man, but found that the greystone platform was empty. Why is it gone? Qin Yang frowned. Could it have disappeared with the collapse of the Immortal Mansion Secret Realm? Zhao Zinmo had no idea what happened. No, it must still be there. Qin Yang shook his head. If it was really as Zhao Zinmo said, the decayed old man would not let him take the spirit bud. Where is it? Zhao Zinmo asked in surprise. At this moment, two voices came in. Why do I hear a sound inside? Impossible. There should be no one there. You go inform the deputy leader. I'll go in and take a look. Qin Yang's eyes flickered. When Alicia sect disciple walked in, a big hand suddenly grabbed his neck. Tell me what's going on. Qin Yang asked in a deep voice. What's going on? The Alicia sect disciple's face flushed. He felt that his throat and cervical vertebrae were about to be crushed. When did you find this place? Where did the three-legged black copper furnace on the stone platform go? Qin Yang asked in a deep voice. The deputy leader took it away 3 days ago. The Alicia sect disciple barely spoke. 3 days ago. Qin Yang was stunned. Although there was no sun and moon in the world of the Immortal Mansion Secret Realm, he felt that at most a few hours had passed. How could 3 days have passed in the outside world? The space is different. The flow rate of time in the Immortal Mansion Secret Realm may be different from that in the present world. Zhao Zinmo transmitted a voice to Qin Yang. Qin Yang nodded slightly. It seems that the people of Alicia sect had discovered the emergence of the Immortal Mansion Secret Realm. The deputy leader must have found this place. Not only did he take away the dead branch of the spiritual bud, but he also sent people to guard it. Go out and take a look. Qin Yang said softly. Crack. The next moment, the neck of the Alicia sect disciple was broken by him. Zhao Zinmo shook his head. He knew that a bloody storm was about to come. When Qin Yang walked out of the stone house, he happened to meet a dozen Alicia sect disciples rushing into the ruined courtyard. There really is someone. It seems to have come out of the Immortal Mansion Secret Realm. The deputy leader has ordered that if anyone appears, they must be captured alive. The leading Alicia sect disciple shouted loudly. Bang. The next moment, his head was smashed by Qin Yang's palm. The brain mixed with skull fragments fell on the faces of the dozen Alicia sect disciples behind him. The next moment, a sharp platinum knife light passed by. Kai kai kai. Figures fell one after another. In the blink of an eye, no Alicia sect disciple was still standing there. When Qin Yang walked out of the courtyard, a figure just walked out of the abandoned stone chamber. It was the deputy leader of Alicia sect, Yan Zuan. You two are really brave. Not only did you enter the secret realm of the Immortal Mansion of my Alicia sect without permission, but you also dared to kill people. Yan Zuan said coldly. After he sensed the fluctuation of spiritual energy that day, he entered the mine to search, and soon found this place. However, when he tried to enter the secret realm of the Immortal Mansion, he failed. Because the spiritual energy of the spiritual bud and dead branches had been consumed as Zhao Zinmo entered. In desperation, Yan Zuan could only take the spiritual bud away first, and then dispatched people to guard the courtyard. I will kill it. But don't worry, I will kill you too. Qin Yang smiled. You are so shameless. Yan Zuan snorted coldly. The next moment, he was flashing dense purple arcs all over his body and instantly appeared in front of Qin Yang, and his right hand slashed at Qin Yang's head like a thunder knife. Bang! Qin Yang shook his head directly and hit it hard. This head shake was obviously a skill of the Wulian heavy whip. His head collided with Yan Zuan's knife like a heavy hammer. Yan Zuan was knocked back repeatedly, and his expression was surprised, a master of horizontal training. The next moment, Qin Yang drew out the cold dragon knife and slashed it quickly. Wild Sea Azura Blood Sea. The violent and bloody knife light seemed to turn into the Azura Blood Sea and envelop Yan Zuan. Bang bang bang. Yan Zuan's hands were wrapped in purple lightning, and a thunderous sound was made. The vitality of both sides kept colliding. A stream of purple electric current rushed into Qin Yang's body, and his muscles were numb and trembling. But his blood and ki were fierce, and these currents had little effect on him. But Yan Zuan was different. The Bidao Zuan Wu vitality was like a sharp ice knife, constantly cutting his flesh and skin. After dozens of moves, he quickly fell behind. Impossible. Yan Zuan roared wildly, and the 3 flowers in his body gathered at the top of his head, and the 5 ki turned to the origin at the same time, and the purple thunder energy was running wildly. Boom. He clapped his hands together suddenly, and a thunderbolt of lightning flashed out. Chapter 307 Thunder. Boom. When the lightning struck, he suddenly raised his cold dragon knife to block. The burning sensation instantly spread from the cold dragon to his arm. The impact of this lightning was also very strong, making Qin Yang step back a few steps. Lightning flash. The next moment, Yan Zuan appeared behind Qin Yang like lightning, with his right hand wrapped in blazing lightning. He hit Qin Yang's back hard. With a bang, the Hunyuan ki condensed on Qin Yang's body suddenly collapsed and exploded. The violent lightning impact caused Qin Yang's internal organs to be shocked, and blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. Bang bang bang. Next, Yan Zuan, who burst out with all his strength, seemed to have the upper hand. He was able to communicate with the heaven and earth, to condense a powerful lightning force, and smashed it madly on Qin Yang. Groups of lightning kept exploding and disintegrating. Yan Zuan originally thought that he could electrocute Qin Yang to death, but he soon discovered that Qin Yang was emitting a burst of green light all over his body, which was constantly melting his lightning. What kind of body protecting energy is this? Yan Zuan was shocked. This was naturally the result of the Wuji Spirit Body Sutra. The Wuji Spirit Body Sutra is said to be invulnerable to all attacks after it is fully developed. Pure energy attacks like thunder and lightning are all dissolved by the Wuji Spirit Talisman. What do you think? Qin Yang smiled slightly. The next moment, his momentum surged, and the huge and cold energy condensed into a black tortoise, violent and ferocious. Thunder lightning wave. At this moment, Qin Yang's energy made Yan Zuan's heart palpitate. He roared wildly, opened his right hand, and flexed his 5 fingers. The violent thunder and lightning energy condensed in his palm, turned into a purple-blue thunderball, and slammed towards Qin Yang fiercely. Desolate Sea Dark Sea. One moment. Qin Yang's eyes flashed with deep coldness. The so-called one moment is extremely fast. The knife light was cold and deep, which made people feel cold in their hearts, and even made people feel like they were freezing the Dark Sea. This knife was extremely powerful, and was born for a sure kill. Puff. When the cold blade light cut through the purple-blue thunderball, Yan Zuan's eyes widened, but his body suddenly froze. You crack. Yan Zuan wanted to speak, but his body began to freeze rapidly, and finally turned into an ice sculpture. This is the horror of the Dark Sea. This guy Zhao Xinmo was shocked when he saw it from behind. This is the deputy leader of the Lisha sect, a strong man who has reached the half-step martial saint realm. The warriors of Shi and Feng continent are stronger than those of Kunshan continent in terms of inheritance and fighting. However, he was still killed by a single sword in front of Qin Yang. Is his current strength enough to compete with the martial saint? Zhao Xinmo guessed in his heart. Let's go. First, find the spirit bud back, Qin Yang said in a deep voice. Yes. Zhao Xinmo responded hurriedly. After that, the two walked out of the spirit stone vein. Naturally, they met many Lisha sect disciples along the way. Qin Yang did not let any of them go, and killed all these Lisha sect disciples without leaving a single piece of armor. After that, when Qin Yang walked out of the spiritual stone vein, he saw several newly erected tents. Of course, there were dozens of Li Shi disciples guarding them. When they saw Qin Yang walking out of the spiritual stone vein, their expressions changed drastically. But Qin Yang was too lazy to talk nonsense and just started killing people, causing blood to flow like a river. Qin Yang, the things are inside. Zhao Xinmo had already sneaked into the tent to check when Qin Yang was killing people. Hearing Zhao Xinmo's voice, Qin Yang walked into the tent. After killing the last Li Shi disciple, Zhao Xinmo was holding a black three-legged copper furnace in his hand. When he saw Qin Yang coming in, he threw it to him. Qin Yang took it and saw the dead branch, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Finally found it. I also found a lot of treasures. There are a lot of spiritual stones here, which should be dug out of this vein. I will accept them with pleasure. Zhao Xinmo patted a wooden box on the ground. It's up to you. I don't need it anyway, Qin Yang said lightly. Just as the two were dividing the spoils, a terrifying and violent aura suddenly descended. Boom. This aura seemed to be struck by thunder and struck Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo's souls like a bolt of lightning. Puff. Zhao Xinmo's soul was instantly injured, and he spat out a mouthful of old blood. Qin Yang was better, but his eyes were covered with bloodshot. This aura. Qin Yang looked outside the tent. I'm afraid it's the martial saint. Zhao Xinmo smiled bitterly with blood on his lips. Wait, you go directly. I'll go meet the martial saint. Take this spiritual bud for me first. Qin Yang transmitted his voice. He threw the three-legged copper stove back to Zhao Xinmo and walked out of the tent directly. A middle-aged man stood outside. The man had long flowing purple hair, a tall and thin figure, and a thin face. But when Qin Yang saw the man, he felt a palpitation. It was as if the other party was God, who could kill him at will. I can't feel Yan Zuan's aura anymore. Did you kill him? The purple-haired man said calmly. I did. Qin Yang did not deny it. When I received the news from Yan Zuan, I was also stunned. I didn't expect that there was a secret immortal palace hidden in this white dragonstone mountain. So when I received the news, I rushed here immediately, but I didn't expect that I was still a step late. The purple-haired man looked at Qin Yang and said calmly, I can only say that your Kingan needs to be improved. Qin Yang smiled. His words made the purple-haired man's expression change slightly. Really? You dare to play with your tongue in front of me? I'll pull out your tongue later. The purple-haired man snorted coldly. The next moment, he burst out with surging and violent purple lightning. The realm of the martial saint is not a half-step martial saint. He can cause celestial phenomena with just a raise of his hands and feet. In an instant, the sky was covered with thick black clouds, and countless purple and blue lightning snakes flashed by. Zzzz purple lightning flashed wildly and condensed into a purple lightning spear in the hand of the purple-haired man. With a bang, the purple lightning spear stabbed at Qin Yang like a mad snake. Countless lightning flashed in the void. The scene was terrifying and filled with the breath of destruction. Qin Yang faced the martial saint without any reservation. Gangman Wazhu, Wu Jiling Fu, San He Juding, Wu Qi Cheoyan. All kinds of secret methods were activated in an instant, which made his body qi and blood rise wildly. Muscles were like steel bars, blood vessels were open, and the whole person's body was almost 3 meters tall, surrounded by Bidaozen Wu Qi. He suddenly pulled out the cold dragon knife and slashed out a Dead Sea floating. With a bang, the knife and spear collided. Countless lightning bloomed in the void like fireworks. These lightnings madly annihilated the Dead Sea. Qin Yang suddenly retreated dozens of meters. Not bad strength, the purple-haired man said in surprise. He felt that the blood and ki power that Qin Yang was exploding at this moment was not much worse than that of him, a martial saint. But this was not enough. The real fear of martial saint lies in the blessing of the power of heaven and earth. With his own strength combined with the power of thunder and lightning, he could still easily crush Qin Yang. You are just like that. Qin Yang laughed grimly, exerted force under his feet, and turned into a violent thunder, and rushed towards the purple-haired man. The knife light burst into a bloody aura, as if it was slashing out like a sea of blood in purgatory. What a fierce knife method. The purple-haired man was calm and casually thrust out the purple lightning spear. Chapter 308 Chase. Ding ding ding. Qin Yang exploded with all his strength. The essence of the Shura Blood Sea Sword technique was fully displayed by him. The endless sea of blood raised huge waves and slapped towards the purple-haired man. But all this was not stressful for the purple-haired man. He waved the purple spear and blocked all the scarlet knife lights. Qin Yang even felt powerless. The other party seemed to be teasing him. In the tent, Zhao Xinmo felt the collision of the terrifying and turbulent key from the outside world and knew that his chance to escape had come. He took out a talisman and stuck it on his body. This talisman could hide the key, and then he used the secret technique and turned into a shadow and quietly swept towards the back. Wanjin. But even though Zhao Xinmo did this, the purple-haired man still glanced at the direction where Zhao Xinmo escaped. He immediately wanted to kill Qin Yang and stabbed the lightning spear in his hand. Boom. Thousands of lightning snakes emerged as the lightning spear stabbed out, spreading madly towards Qin Yang. Dragon falling, white star falling into the sea. Qin Yang did not swing his sword. His left arm swelled up, and his fist flashed with platinum light, smashing into the lightning spear. Boom. The lightning spear was not knocked down by his punch, but just paused for a moment, and then stabbed Qin Yang again. With a clang, Qin Yang swung his sword to block again. But the lightning spear was unstoppable, sweeping away the cold dragon sword, and stabbing Qin Yang's chest. Puff. A violent lightning raged in Qin Yang's body, paralyzing him and twitching. It's over. The purple-haired man pulled out the lightning spear, and was about to stab Qin Yang's head. Qin Yang grinned, and the Wuji spirit talisman quickly ran in his body, melting the lightning. At the same time, his pupils also changed, turning black and white, and the breath of life and death actually blended at this moment. Yin and Yang are one. There is no me and no him. Qin Yang burst out his last resort, the Yin and Yang talisman. His strength increased again, and he swung the cold dragon sword with both hands. With a clang. Feeling the shock from the lightning sword, the purple-haired man frowned slightly. His spear was blocked. The next moment, Qin Yang's eyes flashed with cold light, and his figure rushed forward, and a deep and cold breath burst out fiercely. In the eyes of the purple-haired man, a cold and deep cold sword light suddenly appeared, which made people feel cold all over. Thunder explosion. The purple-haired man said coldly, and suddenly inserted the lightning spear into the ground. Boom. With him as the center, countless lightning snakes suddenly rose up, forming a purple-blue lightning snake, biting Qin Yang fiercely. Boom. The cold sword light and the violent lightning light collided fiercely. The two vitality collided violently, and the air was annihilated and shattered. Qin Yang was still a little short, and his figure was hit and retreated. The purple-haired man looked slightly cold. He originally thought that Qin Yang was an ant that he could easily crush. But now this ant seemed a bit big. He didn't want to waste any more time, and suddenly burst out the power of thunder and lightning in his body, and rushed towards Qin Yang with a thunder spear in his hand. Boom. The two sides kept fighting. The purple-haired man finally got serious, and the thunder spear in his hand was invincible, stabbing out like a storm. Qin Yang waved the cold dragon knife, and used the 9 swords of the wild sea to the extreme. But there was still a gap in strength. With a bang, Qin Yang was hit by the purple-haired man's spear, and flew dozens of meters away. But this time, Qin Yang used the force to turn around, and directly burst out the thunder step. His figure flashed, and swept away. Want to run? The purple-haired man snorted and laughed, and used his body skills to chase him directly. His speed was obviously faster than Qin Yang. Even though Qin Yang used the thunder step to the limit, he was still being approached by the purple-haired man. In the blink of an eye, the two chased into a valley. Roar. An angry roar suddenly sounded in the valley. Whose lair is this? The purple-haired man reacted. As the leader of the Lisha sect, he naturally knew about this monster. Even Yan Zuan sent him here because of this matter. The next moment, boom. The Azura giant ape rushed towards the purple-haired man. Because this guy posed too much of a threat to it, Yan Zuan frowned. A lightning spear appeared in his hand, and he threw it at the Azura giant ape. Boom. Lightning suddenly flashed in the valley, and a loud noise burst out. The Azura giant ape felt the horror of the lightning spear, roared wildly, and smashed its head like a heavy hammer. The 2 huge horns on its head flashed scarlet blood and hit the lightning spear fiercely. Bang. Lightning burst out. The Azura giant ape let out a whine, and one of its scarlet horns was actually smashed by the lightning spear, and its huge body crashed into the mountain wall. The purple-haired man took this opportunity to chase Qin Yang. He had wasted some time. If he didn't chase Qin Yang, the other party would have completely escaped. The Azure giant ape spat out blood and chased the purple-haired man like crazy. This is the nature of wild beasts. When they go crazy, they don't care about anything. But its explosive power is too poor. If it hadn't been for a sudden sneak attack, it would not have been able to catch up with the purple-haired man. In the end, it could only stand on a mountaintop and roar wildly. Qin Yang used the Azure giant ape to buy himself some time. The yin yang talisman in his body was still running, and he kept bursting out the thunder step at a very fast speed. But he soon felt a violent aura behind him, locking himself from a distance. This guy caught up so quickly. Qin Yang was a little surprised. He thought the Azure giant ape could delay for a while, but he didn't expect it to be a waste. His eyes were fierce, and he mobilized all the vitality in his body into his legs, and the explosive speed increased again. After the fight just now, he knew that there was still a clear gap between him and the purple-haired man. If he couldn't beat him, he could only run away. The purple-haired man was surprised to find that Qin Yang's speed had increased again. But he naturally didn't want to let Qin Yang go. Letting him go would undoubtedly be like letting a tiger go back to the mountains. This boy has such strength before he reaches the realm of martial saint. If he lets him go this time, I'm afraid it will become a big worry. He must not be kept. The two quickly rushed out of the White Dragonstone Mountain and chased in the wilderness. Qin Yang was very familiar with the nearby terrain and only ran towards the deserted places. Because this is the territory of the Thunder Demon Sect, there are naturally Thunder Demon Sect masters sitting near each city. Going to those places will only make the situation worse. Within an hour, the purple-haired man had caught up with Qin Yang several times, but the other party didn't entangle with him at all. He took advantage of his spear and left. For a while, the purple-haired man had no choice but to continue chasing and slowly wear Qin Yang to death. But Qin Yang's physique was too strong. Even though his body was pierced with more than a dozen blood holes, his speed was not affected. I don't believe you are really immortal. The purple-haired man caught up with Qin Yang and stabbed him with his spear again. Qin Yang avoided the vital points, and a hole was stabbed in his thigh. He said nothing and continued to flee forward. You are useless and are destined to die at my hands. The purple-haired man snorted coldly and chased him again. Rumble suddenly, the sound of surging river water came from the distance. A large river with turbulent water appeared not far away. Qin Yang only had one thought in his mind, to escape to the large river in front. Chapter 309, Sinking into the River. Seeing the river ahead, the purple-haired man also showed a hint of joy. He knew that this long road of pursuit was finally coming to an end. You really know how to choose a dead end for yourself. It's really nice to be buried in this river. The purple-haired man smiled. Haha, it may not be a dead end. It may also be a way to live. Qin Yang looked back at the purple-haired man and smiled contemptuously. The next moment, he jumped into the surging river. The purple-haired man frowned slightly. He couldn't even feel Qin Yang's aura. He jumped up and leaped into the air, communicating with the power of heaven and earth. Boom. A thunderbolt from the blue sky fell down, condensed in his hand, and turned into a purple-blue spear. Lightning explosion. The purple-haired man, like Thor, held the spear and threw it into the river. Boom. When the purple-blue spear fell into the river, it was as if thousands of lightning snakes were thrown into the river, spreading in the water, stirring up countless waves, and it was pale. The fish, shrimps, and turtles in the water were all electrocuted and jumped out of the water. The scene was extremely spectacular. When the current ended, the surface of the river was full of dead fish and shrimps. The purple-haired man landed on the riverbank, looking at the fish and shrimps on the water, but frowned. The body did not appear on the surface of the river. Did he escape? The purple-haired man would not give up just like that, and sank directly to the bottom of the river. The undercurrent at the bottom of the river was even more turbulent, but it had no effect on him. He continued to spread his own senses at the bottom of the river, trying to find Qin Yang's trace. But after searching for several hours, the purple-haired man still did not find Qin Yang. Damn it. The purple-haired man knew that Qin Yang must have some secret method. Once he entered the water, he could hide his breath and then escape. In desperation, the purple-haired man could only mobilize people and send dozens of large ships to search the river. Deep at the bottom of the river, Qin Yang was hiding deep in the mud at the bottom of the river. He was like an old turtle hibernating, without any energy dissipating and making any movement. He was quietly buried in the mud. Bidao Zen Wuzu and Gong was quietly running in his body, slowly repairing the terrible injuries in his body. It was Qin Yang's natural choice to escape to this big river. Because of the characteristics of Bidao Zen Wuzu and Gong, Qin Yang has a natural affinity for water. Once he enters the water, it is a natural protective shield for him. The purple-haired man is only a martial saint, and he can't move mountains and fill the sea like immortals and Buddhas. So as soon as Qin Yang entered the bottom of the river, he hid his breath, and then quickly came to a secret place, and dived into the mud at the bottom of the river. Now Qin Yang has already lost consciousness. His own injuries are very serious, and he keeps running the Yin Yang life and death talisman, overdrawing too much life energy. Being able to escape to this big river is based on his terrifying will to survive. However, it is precisely because of this extreme state that Qin Yang has entered a strange state, on the verge of death, between life and death, hiding in the depths of the river where the sun never shines. Everything. It seemed to perfectly fit in with the cultivation visualization of Bidao Zen Wuzu and Jing. I don't know how long it took. Qin Yang finally regained a trace of consciousness. He felt like he was sleeping in the endless dark deep sea, neither dead nor alive. Am I dead? Qin Yang's consciousness was a little confused. Because he was so seriously injured at the time, even he didn't know if he could survive. In the dark, Qin Yang's consciousness gradually faded. He seemed to be immersed in this state of neither life nor death. In a trance, Bidao Zen Wuzu Angan kept flowing in his mind, and seemed to be undergoing some kind of transformation. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. During this period of time, the forbidden technique of isolating the world became more and more ineffective, and even high-level ghost weapons could be directly summoned down by evil rituals. The Xianfeng continent also gradually became chaotic and bloody. After a month of fruitless searching, the purple-haired man asked the disciples of the Lisha sect to continue searching and return to the mountain gate. But without his supervision, the people of the Lisha sect naturally became more and more lazy, and finally just sent a few disciples to patrol the river every day. Qin Yang, I know you won't die so easily, but it's been half a year. Why haven't you appeared yet? On the calm and vast river surface, Zhao Zinmo, wearing a straw hat and raincoat, sat on a bamboo raft, holding a fishing rod, and muttered to himself. He had been looking for Qin Yang in this river for 2 months, but still had no results. Could it be that I was wrong and Qin Yang is not in this river at all, but somewhere else? Zhao Zinmo frowned. Forget it. Wait another 5 or 6 days. Zhao Zinmo thought about it, but still didn't give up. He had a feeling that Qin Yang must still be alive, and he must be in this river. At this time, a large ship appeared in the distance. Several disciples in purple clothes stood at the railing of the deck, constantly patrolling the river. Zhao Zinmo was not panicked when he saw the ship, because he looked like an old man fishing now. With these Lisha disciples, it was impossible to recognize him. Sure enough, the Lisha disciples on the boat just glanced at him, ignored him, and cast their eyes elsewhere. At this time, Zhao Zinmo's fishing rod vibrated. He swung the rod hastily. A plump green bamboo fish was instantly brought out of the water. Zhao Zinmo put the green bamboo fish into the fish basket and swung the rod slowly again. A place deep in the river. It was full of algae, and several small fish kept shuttling through it. Below, it was Qin Yang. After the ups and downs of his consciousness in the past 6 months, he gradually understood the state between life and death. The mystery of Bidao Zen Wuzu and Gong was also sublimated in Qin Yang's mind. It turns out that I'm not dead. At this moment, Qin Yang finally regained his consciousness. This means that he has escaped from the state between life and death. The moment he opened his eyes, bang, the mud on his body completely shattered. Qin Yang slowly sat up, exuding the deep and cold Bidao Zen Wu vitality. His ki, physique, and ki and blood are undergoing transformation, or sublimation, in an instant. All the fish and shrimps in the whole river felt this energy, and started to run around wildly. Even the water flowed violently, and turned into a whirlpool. Moreover, this whirlpool was getting bigger and bigger and expanding. What's going on? Could it be that there are monsters in the water? Impossible. Look, there is a whirlpool. On the big ship of the Lisha sect, several disciples looked at the whirlpool in front of them and were horrified. They were all ordinary disciples, and they didn't know how to deal with this situation. Report it to senior brother Zhang quickly. Yes, send a signal. A Lisha sect disciple took out a firework and was about to light it to pass on the message. Puff. The next moment, his head flew up strangely. Chapter 310 Resistance. The Lisha sect disciples on the boat were all startled. How could this man's head suddenly fly up? Then the next second, these people also felt dizzy. They didn't even feel any pain, but they were just surprised and puzzled. Why did I fly up too? Plop, several bodies fell on the deck. Zeos and Mo, who was sitting on a raft in the distance, smiled slightly, waved his fishing rod, and reeled in the fishing line. He knew that there were still a few people on the big ship. He jumped up lightly, jumping on the river like a dragonfly skimming the water, and quickly came to the deck of the big ship. With his cultivation, he didn't even need to do it himself. Once the soul spread, the few people in the cabin instantly became mentally crazy and killed each other. At this time, Zeos and Mo looked at the whirlpool in the distance. I knew it. He showed a smile on his face. The whirlpool was still spreading wildly, sucking everything on the river surface into it. Even the big ship, where Zeos and Mo was. With a bang, the big ship was directly swallowed and crushed by the water whirlpool, turning into countless wood chips and wood fragments. Zeos and Mo could only go back to the shore to continue observing. But the fishermen who were fishing in the river started to scream wildly. Run. What's going on with this whirlpool? Maybe there's a demon at work. Many fishermen also discovered this whirlpool and hurried back to the shore. But they were originally frightened, but strangely felt a strong sense of sleepiness. Then they fell into a coma the next moment. All this, of course, it was Zeos and Mo's trick. These people were just ordinary fishermen, not disciples of the Lisha sect, so he didn't kill them. However, as the whirlpool continued to spread, the noise it caused became louder and louder, and sooner or later it would be noticed by the Lisha sect. Zeos and Mo would naturally not sit and wait for death. He didn't know how long it would take Qin Yang to come out, so he arranged some tricks nearby and quietly waited for the Lisha sect to come. Half an hour later, a Lisha sect master from a nearby city rushed over with hundreds of disciples. It seems that the leader was right. The man is still alive. Chen Wei looked at the huge whirlpool on the surface of the rippled river with a look of surprise. The purple-haired man gave a death order when he left. Once the man was found, he must be killed at any cost. Chen Wei naturally did not dare to disobey the purple-haired man's order, and immediately asked people to go into the water to check the situation. Several Lisha disciples were about to dive into the river, but before they entered the river, their bodies were chopped into neat pieces. The whole scene was motionless, but it gave people an extremely exaggerated sense of blood. What's going on? Chen Wei was shocked. There was no sign at all, and he did not feel any breath fluctuations. These people died in front of him. What's going on? How can people die like this? Is there a demon in this river? A group of Lisha disciples became even more terrified. HMPH, don't talk nonsense. Chen Wei naturally didn't believe this. He used all his strength to circulate the vital energy in his body, stimulate the essence of the 5 internal organs, and his body suddenly expanded. He strode towards the river. Suddenly, his heart trembled, as if he had sensed something, and his hands suddenly hit the void. Bang! A transparent net was punched with a huge hole, and appeared in front of everyone. It turned out to be a fishing net who is plotting against us. The Lisha disciples saw this fishing net, and instantly understood what was going on, and looked around. Chen Wei was not in such a mood, because the transparent huge fishing net suddenly shrank towards him. Damn it. Chen Wei waved his hands wildly, and the lightning energy continued to burst out, causing a burst of thunder. The fishing net was madly flowing with ox, but it was not broken by Chen Wei, and it was still covering him. If Chen Wei had dodged and left the moment he found this fishing net, it might not be a problem. But he was still too confident and thought he could break this fishing net. But he didn't expect that this fishing net was not simple. It was specially forged by Zeos and Mo with a material that completely isolated lightning. It was to restrain the people of the Lisha sect. Puff. Chen Wei used the fishing net to catch and kill, and after struggling for a while, he was also chopped into mincemeat. The Lisha disciples following him were scared. Zhao Zinmo would not let these people go, and he used a spell to activate the fishing net. Even Chen Wei could not stop it, let alone these Lisha disciples. After a few breaths, these dozens of disciples were instantly chopped into pieces by the fishing net. Fortunately, this guy's arrogant enough, otherwise I would have to use up some of my hands and feet. Zhao Zinmo only showed up at this time, and said to himself. He looked at the river again, and found that the vortex had stopped expanding. But a more bizarre phenomenon appeared. The river surface began to freeze, and was covered with a thick layer of ice. You kids should be quick. I don't know how long I can hold out. Zhao Zinmo said again. He didn't think that everything would be fine after dealing with Chen Wei. This is the territory of Lisha. Chen Wei is just the nearest elder. Once he gets into trouble, the Lisha from the nearby city will come quickly. It will not be such a simple matter to deal with it later. Zhao Zinmo had no choice but to rearrange the fishing net and wait for more people from Lisha. After a few hours, the entire river has frozen, and it's not snow white ice, but dark blue ice. Now looking down from the sky, it seems that the river surface has turned into a deep dark sea. The whirlpool in the middle of the river is like the eye of the abyss, constantly emitting deep and fierce aura. Several Lisha sect elders in nearby cities received the news and quickly brought people over. A few hundred meters away, there were 4 Wookiee Chaoyuan realm warriors and an elder in Tongsuan realm. When Zhao Zinmo, who was hiding in the dark, saw this Linoop, he couldn't help but frown. He was just a Yingpo realm spiritual master, equivalent to a Wookiee Chaoyuan realm warrior. Even with many means, it was indeed difficult for him to deal with so many people in front of him. But no matter how difficult it was, Zhao Zinmo could only bite the bullet and hold on. Chen Wei brought people here before, but now he mysteriously disappeared. There should be something strange here. Everyone should be careful, a mighty old man said. His name is Zheng Wu, with Tongsuan cultivation, an elder of Lisha sect, and he is in charge of more than a dozen nearby cities. Elder Zheng, why don't I go check out the situation first? A master of the Lisha sect volunteered, wanting to show off in front of Zheng Wu. Remember to be careful. Zheng Wu nodded. The Lisha sect master didn't waste any words and activated the 5 internal organs in his body, and the body's protective energy started to run wildly, and he was about to head towards the river. Just as he entered the water, an invisible large net suddenly appeared in the air and suddenly enveloped him. The Lisha sect master reacted quickly and was about to dodge. Bang! A dozen fireballs suddenly exploded on the ground under his feet. This was the flame talisman that Zhao Zinmo had buried underground in advance. The talisman was not very powerful, but it just happened to interrupt the Lisha sect master's movements. The next moment, the fishing net magic weapon fell from the sky and grabbed the Lisha sect master. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Breakthrough. The master of the Lisha sect screamed, and his protective vitality was shredded by the fishing net, and the whole person was cut into pieces of meat. Even if Zheng Wu wanted to attack, he didn't have time. It turns out that there is a spiritual master at work. The leader once said that in addition to the man who jumped into the river, there is another spiritual master who escaped. Zheng Wu's eyes flickered. He glanced at the 3 Lisha sect masters next to him. The 3 of them looked solemn, looked at each other, and rushed towards the fishing net fiercely. Zhao Zinmo, who was hiding in the dark, bit his tongue and desperately urged his magic power. The fishing net instantly became larger and rushed towards the 3 Lisha sect masters fiercely. But the 3 people were not vegetarians, and they launched attacks one after another. Bang bang bang, thunder roared. The fishing net was broken into holes. Zheng Wu sneered, and he had already felt a weak fluctuation of magic power. Although the other party was still hiding, it was useless in Zheng Wu's eyes. Swish, he suddenly appeared in front of an old tree by the river and hit it with a palm. The old tree twisted strangely and turned into a Taoist with scalloped eyes. Go to hell. Zhao Zinmo grinned. There was a bronze mirror hanging on his chest, and a yellow light suddenly shot out. A petty trick. Zheng Wu shook the thunder energy in his body violently, and his big hand grabbed out like a thunder claw. Bang! The yellow light was crushed alive by him. And Zhao Zinmo took the opportunity to dodge and leave. But Zheng Wu's eyes turned cold, and he burst out with terrible speed. He suddenly appeared beside Zhao Zinmo and kicked him. Once a spiritual master is approached by a warrior, he is still too passive. A yellow light shield rose from Zhao Zinmo's body. But the opponent's kick was wrapped in lightning, and was extremely swift. Bang! Zhao Zinmo screamed, and was kicked in the lower abdomen alive. He felt that his internal organs were about to burst. The next moment, Zheng Wu smiled cruelly, opened his big hand, and grabbed fiercely with arcs of electricity around his fingertips. Bang! Zhao Zinmo's head was fiercely scratched. However, there was no blood spurting out, but a pile of sawdust cracked. Substitute secret method. Zheng Wu sneered and looked around. The substitute secret method has been used. I wonder how you can escape. The substitute secret method can only be used once in a short period of time. And the distance will not be too far. As long as Zhao Zinmo appears, he can kill him immediately. Zhao Zinmo also understands this principle, so he did not appear. Puff. At this time, the fishing net magic weapon in the distance was torn to pieces by several Lisha sect masters without Zhao Zinmo's magic power to drive and control it. You go to the bottom of the river to check the situation. I will keep an eye on that guy. Zheng Wu smiled. The Lisha sect masters did not dare to disobey Zheng Wu's order and were about to dive to the bottom of the river. A yellow light suddenly appeared from a distance and shot at one of the Lisha sect masters. Zhao Zinmo couldn't help but appear. Although he knew that he would die if he showed up, he could only delay some time in this way. After shooting through the yellow light, he was going to dodge away. But Zheng Wu had been waiting for the moment when he appeared. He appeared in front of Zhao Zinmo in an instant and hit him with the palm. Zhao Zinmo urged the bronze mirror to block in front of him. With a clang, Zheng Wu roared, and the bronze mirror was crushed by his claws. At the same time, he knocked Zhao Zinmo to the ground with a punch. You want to play with me? I won't kill you first. You will enjoy it. Zheng Wu looked at Zhao Zinmo lying on the ground and spitting blood, and smiled cruelly. Really? Zhao Zinmo grinned. You can still laugh. Zheng Wu was slightly stunned. Hurry up and laugh. I'm afraid you won't have a chance later. Zhao Zinmo said seriously. Are you crazy? Zheng Wu couldn't understand why Zhao Zinmo said these words. He's not crazy. A cold voice sounded behind Zheng Wu. Zheng Wu's scalp tingled instantly. He didn't even know there was another person behind him. You know, the perception of a Zuan warrior is very terrible. How could he not know there was another person behind him? Zheng Wu hurriedly dodged forward. A big hand suddenly grabbed his neck. A deep and extremely cold breath instantly invaded Zheng Wu's body, freezing his limbs. Qin Yang casually threw Zheng Wu to the ground and stepped on him. Boom. Zheng Wu, who was already frozen into an ice sculpture, was crushed into ice chips by a step. Fortunately, you didn't let me down. Zhao Zinmo lay on the ground, still coughing up blood, but laughed out loud. Thank you. Qin Yang stretched out his hand to pull Zhao Zinmo up. Talk about this. Let's deal with the remaining people first. Zhao Zinmo said. Zheng Wu was dead, but there were still a few Lisha sect masters and hundreds of disciples. Qin Yang turned and looked over. I saw that the hundreds of Lisha sect disciples and several masters were looking at Qin Yang with fear on their faces. Can kill Zheng Wu with one blow. With this kind of strength, he must be a half-step martial saint. He should be the one the leader has been looking for. We are definitely not his opponent. Let's flee and spread the news of his appearance. Yes. Several Lisha sect masters secretly communicated with each other. They knew they were no match for Qin Yang, so they naturally wanted to escape. Qin Yang looked at them and shook his head slightly. Boom. The next moment, the originally frozen river surface broke instantly. The mighty river water turned into a surging water dragon, rushing towards the Lisha sect. These people didn't even have time to flee before they were swallowed by the water dragon, and hundreds of people died instantly. Communicating with the power of heaven and earth. You have been promoted to a martial saint? Zhao Zinmo looked at Qin Yang and exclaimed in surprise. This was obviously the scene of entering the realm of martial saint and urging the power of heaven and earth. Yes, good and bad are interdependent. This time being hunted by the martial saint, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise for me. Qin Yang smiled. This time, he was trapped in a deadly situation and hid at the bottom of the river. All kinds of coincidences made his martial arts sublime, breaking through the 9th level of shackles and reaching the 10th level. The 3 realms of martial saints: induction, dharma body, and heavenly communication. He is now martial saint of induction, able to sense the heaven and earth and use their power to kill the opponent. Others are lucky to escape by chance. You can break through to the level of martial saint after escaping. I think you have more than just the blood of immortals and Buddhas. I'm afraid it's the blood of immortal kings and Buddhas. Zhao Xinmo was amazed. Qin Yang was speechless and changed the subject. Let's leave here first. That's right. After all, this is the territory of the Lisha sect. Zhao Xinmo nodded. The two quickly left the river. On the road, Zhao Xinmo said, "You asked me to collect the spiritual bud. I hid it in a secret valley. Go get it first." Qin Yang nodded and then asked curiously, "How long has it been since I was hunted by the martial saint?" He was in a coma most of the time and had no idea how much time had passed in the outside world. "Half a year. I almost thought you were really gone," Zhao Xinmo said casually. So long. Qin Yang was a little surprised. He thought he had only been asleep for 2 or 3 months. Well, now the forbidden technique of isolating the world is almost ineffective. Even high-level ghost weapons are constantly coming. The sects in Xian Feng continent are also in a mess. Zhao Xinmo shook his head. Chapter 312. Old Nest. Once a high-level ghost weapon descends, it will cause too much pollution. If it is in a densely populated city, the casualties will be even more terrifying. Only if the sects in Xian Feng continent are strong enough and the spiritual energy is revived, it will be much easier for warriors to break through than before, and the situation can be barely contained. Of course, now is not the worst time. When the forbidden technique of isolating the world is completely ineffective and the void ghost species can completely descend, it will be the most terrifying and dark era. Qin Yang followed Zhao Xinmo on the road while learning about what happened in the past 6 months. Half an hour later, they came to a hidden valley. Zhao Xinmo has lived in it for the past 6 months. In order to hide his tracks, he did not build a wooden house or other buildings, but opened up a cave and covered it with a barrier illusion. From the outside, it is just a stone wall, and there is no floor. If it weren't for Zhao Xinmo leading him, Qin Yang would not have seen that there was a cave hidden in the mountain wall. Entering it, there is only a simple stone bed and a futon. A black 3-legged copper stove is placed on the ground. I don't know what this spiritual bud is. I dare not move it. I just water it every few days. But it seems that it can't be saved. Zhao Xinmo shook his head. I don't know what it is either. It's just that the senior in the Immortal Mansion Secret Realm told me that this spiritual bud may be of great use. Qin Yang said in a deep voice. Like this, then find some spiritual water and spiritual liquid to water it in the future and see if it can be saved. Zhao Xinmo said softly. Okay. Try everything. Qin Yang didn't have any good ideas. What do you plan to do after that? Zhao Xinmo asked. Now that the Immortal Mansion Secret Realm has been explored, in theory, their goal of coming to Xian Feng continent has been achieved. Of course, it's revenge for that guy chasing me so badly. If I don't kill him back, how can I survive in Dao Dynasty? Qin Yang smiled. A true man is one who takes revenge. The purple-clothed man almost pushed him to a dead end, and he had to take revenge. I knew you had this temper. I've investigated that man for you. His name is Fan Zuanlui, the leader of the Lisha sect, and a martial saint of the induction realm. Zhao Xinmo chuckled. Fan Zuanlui, let's go. Go to the Lisha sect's lair. Do you dare? Qin Yang asked. Going to seek revenge on Fan Zuanlui this time is actually quite risky. If Zhao Xinmo doesn't want to go, there's no need to drag him along. Why not? Without me, who will save you? Zhao Xinmo laughed. Qin Yang laughed out loud. Then let's go to this dragon's den and tiger's lair. Jiuli City. This is the largest city in the territory, controlled by the Lisha sect. The Lisha sect's mountain gate is in a mountain not far from Jiuli City. Fan Zuanlui was still wearing purple clothes, sitting in the headmaster's hall, looking at the notes that kept being handed over, frowning slightly. Grand Elder, we sent so many people to suppress the ghost weapon, but it seems to have no effect at all. The disaster of the ghost weapon is getting worse and worse. Fan Zuanli shook his head. Sitting below him was an old man in a purple robe with thick eyebrows. This old man in a purple robe was the great elder of the Lisha sect, Zhao Guanshan, who was known as the Green Thunder Hand in the Jianghu. Master, this forbidden technique of isolating the world has failed, and no one can stop it. When the ghost species can descend directly in the future, it will be a real catastrophe. No matter what, we should send more disciples out to fight against the ghost weapons, even if there are more casualties. But those who survive are the elite disciples we need. This can also prepare for the arrival of the ghost species in the future, Zhao Guanshan said thoughtfully. Then let the great elder arrange it. Fan Zuanli said helplessly. At this time, another disciple hurried in and handed over a note. Fan Zuanli opened it, and after reading it, he snorted coldly. I knew this guy wouldn't die so easily. Zhao Guanshan asked curiously, who made the master lose his composure like this? Fan Zuanli has been the master for more than 10 years, and he has always been very cunning. Even if he is angry, he will not show it. The man who stole the secret realm of the immortal mansion from Bailanshi Mountain has appeared again. And he disappeared after killing hundreds of us. Fan Zuanli said coldly. Didn't the man fall into the river and die of serious injuries after being thrown into the river by you, the leader? Zhao Guanshan remembered this incident after hearing what Fan Zuanli said. I thought it was like this at the beginning. But after all, I didn't see the body, so I was worried and asked people to search that big river. I didn't expect him to appear alive and kill hundreds of us. Fan Zuanli said in a deep voice. If we don't kill him so blatantly, how can our Lisha sect save its face? Zhao Guanshan also snorted coldly. That guy is not weak. After killing our people, I'm afraid he fled thousands of miles away. Fan Zuanli shook his head. The main reason is that the timing is not right now. He and Zhao Guanshan both need to stay at the mountain gate to guard against the appearance of high-level ghost weapons. The world is so big that it is difficult to hunt down a person. It doesn't necessarily require us to take action. He's just a half-step martial saint. Spend a few thousand spirit stones to ask the people of Yanluo Tower to take action, and we can solve it. Zhao Guanshan smiled slightly. Fan Zuanli's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help laughing and said, Great Elder, this is a good idea. As long as Yanluo Tower takes this business, as long as that person is still in Qianfeng continent, I'm afraid he will have trouble sleeping and eating. This Yanluo Tower is a killer organization in Qianfeng continent. Unlike ordinary sects, this Yanluo Tower has no territory and no mountain gate. No one knows where Yanluo Tower exists, but its reputation is not small at all. It can be said to be notorious. Over the years, very few people have been able to escape the assassination of Yanluo Tower. 10 days ago, Yanluo Tower successfully assassinated a martial saint, causing a sensation in Qianfeng continent. Master, go and draw a portrait of that person first. I'll contact Yanluo Tower and discuss the price with them. Zhao Guanshan smiled. That's great. Fan Zuanli nodded. He didn't care about the thousands of spirit stones, as long as he could kill Qin Yang and get rid of his anger. Is this the Nine Thunder City? Qin Yang looked up at the towering city wall in front of him and smiled slightly. Yes, there is a Nine Thunder Tower in the city. It is said that a long time ago, 9 thunders struck the tower in one breath, but the tower was unscathed, so it was named the Nine Thunder Tower. Zhao Zin stood beside Qin Yang and smiled slightly. Let's go in and take a look. Qin Yang asked curiously. The faces of the two people had long been covered by Zhao Zinmo's illusion. To ordinary people, they looked like ordinary people. Follow the flow of people into the Nine Thunder City. The buildings are quite magnificent, all made of dark grey and blue-grey stones. There are also a large number of stone towers and stone buildings, which are completely different from the architectural style of the Deu dynasty. There are all kinds of people on the street. Of course, disciples of the Thunder Demon sect can be seen everywhere. Chapter 313 Excitement. Qin Yang and Zhao Zinmo didn't feel like they were in a tiger's den. They were quite relaxed, looking around like travelers. After a while, they came to an open space in Jiuli City. A huge purple tower stood there. The tower had 9 floors, each floor was more than 10 meters high, and the total height was 133 meters. From a distance, it looked like a purple giant standing in Jiuli City. This is the Jiuli Tower. I just heard a rumor. As long as the Jiuli Tower doesn't fall, the Lisha sect will not be destroyed. So the Jiuli Tower still has a special meaning for the Lisha sect. Zhao Zinmo said softly. Then I think the Jiuli Tower is not far from falling. Qin Yang smiled slightly. I think so too. Zhao Zinmo nodded in agreement. The two didn't hang around too much, because the Jiuli Tower exuded a powerful aura that seemed to be there and not there. There should be a master of the Lisha sect stationed in it. If you stay too long, it may arouse suspicion, so it's better to leave as soon as possible. After the two left, they found an inn to stay. It is not so easy to attack Fan Zuanlei in the lair of the Lisha cult. They need to collect more information and then kill him. Qin Yang rested in his room and called out the proficiency panel. Host, Qin Yang Bidao Zen Wuzu and Gong, 10th level, 299 over 12,000. Magical power, overturning the sea dragon subduing fist, minor success, 3780/4000. Wuji spirit body sutra. 7th level, 642 over 7,000. Desolate C9 swords, minor success, 2887/4000. Crazy thunderstep, mastery, 945 over 1,500. Qin Yang was very surprised when he saw the magical power formed by Bidao Zen Wuzu and Gong at first, because there has never been a martial art that has not been formed before it is perfected. This is the first time. Qin Yang feels that it may be because the level of Bidao Zen Wuzu and Gong is too high. After all, this skill can be practiced to the limit and can reach the perfection of the Ascension realm. Moreover, after breaking through to the martial saint, he can sense the power of heaven and earth. And this magical power of turning rivers and seas upside down is also very terrifying. Qin Yang can drive the big rivers to attack the enemy. If the combat environment is in the water, it can also greatly improve the combat effectiveness. In order to break through the martial saint, I wasted more than half a year. It is also time to practice these martial arts to perfection. Qin Yang looked at the dragon subduing fist, the 9 swords of the wild sea, and the infinite spirit body sutra. The improvement of these 3 martial arts is the most urgent for him. Of course, Fan Zuanlei must be dealt with first. In the next few days, Qin Yang and Zhao Zinmo kept asking for clues and information about the Thunder Demon sect in Jiuli City. They did not need to confidential information, and it was difficult for these news to leak from the Thunder Demon sect. In a tea house, Qin Yang and Zhao Zinmo were drinking tea and talking about how to do it. That's the general plan. Are you confident? Qin Yang asked softly. I don't need to do it. I'm just helping. You just need to have confidence. Zhao Zinmo smiled. Well, as long as I can hook Fan Zuanlei, I can kill him. Qin Yang said confidently. Remember to be quick. I don't know how long my formation barrier can hold out. Zhao Zinmo reminded. Don't worry. It will be almost within an incense stick. Qin Yang nodded. Then I will go back to study it tonight and try to give you an incense stick of time. Zhao Zinmo said in a deep voice. In addition to his love for studying ghost weapons and ghost species, he also has a deep understanding of formation barriers. This is also an important means for him. Then thank you for your hard work. Qin Yang smiled. Just kill Fan Zuanlei. It's also a relief for me. Zhao Zinmo smiled slightly. Don't worry. This guy will definitely die. Qin Yang looked in the direction of the Thunder Demon sect with a cold look. 2 days later. Late at night, 9 Thunder Tower. This 9 Thunder Tower is forbidden to anyone to enter. Even the disciples of the Thunder Demon sect need to apply before climbing the tower. And every floor is guarded by disciples of the Thunder Demon sect, which can be said to be heavily guarded. After all, it was rumored that the fortunes of the 9 Thunder Tower and the Lisha sect were tied together. If something happened to the 9 Thunder Tower, it would be a major blow to the Lisha sect. A figure approached the 9 Thunder Tower silently in the dark. The aura of this figure was hidden so well that he existed if seen with the naked eye, but he was invisible just by perception. Whoosh, 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 the black shadow climbed the 9 Thunder Tower as fast as a gecko. The 133-meter high 9 Thunder Tower was just a dozen seconds for him. In the blink of an eye, he came to the highest ninth floor and lay quietly on the outer wall. There was only one spacious room on the ninth floor, which was brightly lit with many portraits of the founders of the Lisha sect. A one-armed old man sat on a cushion and closed his eyes to practice. His name was Zhu Gang, a half-step martial saint, an elder of the Lisha sect, and he had been stationed in the Ninth Thunder Tower for several years. Ring, ring, ring. Suddenly, there was a gentle sound of wind chimes outside. It seemed to be blown by the evening breeze. Zhu Gang opened his eyes. He had entered the half-step martial saint realm for many years, and his perception of everything nearby was very sharp. In his perception, the wind chime was ringing, but he did not sense the existence of the wind. This naturally made him alert. Zhu Gang narrowed his eyes, stood up, and opened the window. The wind chime was still swaying, but Zhu Gang trembled all over, feeling that he was locked by infinite evil spirits, and there was a slight flaw in his mind. A black shadow suddenly jumped in from the window, and the cold dragon knife in his hand was instantly unsheathed, turning into a cold and sharp light and slashing out. Desolate said Xi in a moment. Zhu Gang was startled by the cold and sharp knife light, but the moment of shock to his mind just now was too fatal for him. Before he made any move, his eyes were filled with the cold knife light. It's over. Puff. Zhu Gang was stunned for a while. Then a bloodline appeared in the middle of his face. Crash. The whole head broke into two halves, and a lot of blood flowed out crazily. A dignified half-step martial saint was killed by a single sword. He didn't even see the other person's appearance. Qin Yang casually put away the cold dragon sword. So this is the ancestral temple. It's a pity that it will be turned into ruins tonight. Qin Yang looked at the many portraits hanging in the room and sneered. Soon, thick hot black smoke rose from the highest point of the Ninth Thunder Tower and then turned into raging flames. The ninth floor is on fire. Where is Elder Zhu? Never mind. Go put out the fire first. The Lisha disciples in the Ninth Thunder Tower saw the ninth floor on fire and were in a panic for a moment. Zhu Gang, the backbone, did not appear at this time, and the voices could not be unified. In the end, they could only rush to the ninth floor like a panic swarm of bees, wanting to see what was going on. But no one saw it. A figure gently floated down from the ninth floor and landed on the ground. Looking at this 133-meter high purple giant tower, Qin Yang grinned. It should be very satisfying to hit you with one punch. Chapter 314. Lure the snake out of its hole. Qin Yang took a deep breath, and his vitality surged wildly. His expression was as majestic as the sea, as if a god had descended. He took the posture of the dragon subduing fist. His energy surged, and his muscles expanded, turning into a small giant, and punched hard. Dragon subduing divine power shocks the sea. Boom. The violent energy blasted out, and slammed into the purple giant tower. With a roar, the giant tower, that had stood in Jiuli City for hundreds of years, was crushed by the violent energy. The 133-meter long tower body shattered in an instant. The people in the Jiuli tower couldn't figure out what was going on, and their bodies fell downwards in an instant. This sudden feeling of losing the center of gravity made everyone scream in fear. Then, they were completely submerged in the ruins of the giant tower. As the Jiuli tower shattered, countless smoke and dust rose. Such a huge movement naturally alarmed everyone in Jiuli City. Many warriors jumped onto the eaves to check the situation. Then, all of them were dumbfounded. Impossible. The Ninth Thunder Tower is gone. Could it be that the loud noise just now was the collapse of the Ninth Thunder Tower? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Many figures flew in the direction of the Ninth Thunder Tower, wanting to see the situation clearly. When they arrived at the ruins of the Ninth Thunder Tower, their expressions were even more horrified. Because the Ninth Thunder Tower was not toppled, but shattered. Many broken rubbles covered the ground, forming a ruin more than 10 meters high. The people of the Thunder Demon sect are probably buried underneath. Who dared to even break the Ninth Thunder Tower? I'm afraid it's a fight to the death with the Thunder Demon sect. Some warriors talked about it. The Thunder Demon sect disciples who rushed over changed their expressions and hurriedly reported the situation. The Thunder Demon sect mountain gate. Fan Zuanli was meditating in the Master's Hall. At their level, they had no sleep and had become practicing time. A disciple hurried in and reported, "Master, the Ninth Thunder Tower suddenly collapsed half an hour ago. Elder ZHU and all the disciples were not spared and were buried in the ruins. What happened? Fan Zuanlui opened his eyes suddenly. The Nine Thunder Tower is too important for the Lisha sect. Otherwise, there would be no need to send a half-step martial saint to guard it. The reason is unknown. Elder Dang is still under investigation. The disciple said quickly. The Elder Dang he mentioned is actually the mayor of Jiuli City. You go and inform the elder and ask him to stay in the sect. I'll go and see it myself. Fan Zuanlui couldn't sit still and immediately stood up and ordered. Yes. The disciple clasped his fists. The next moment, Fan Zuanlui disappeared in the hall. On the way to Jiuli City, Fan Zuanlui thought, who destroyed the Nine Thunder Tower? The Lisha sect has always been overbearing and has offended many people because of this. But there are not many people who have the courage and strength to blow up the Nine Thunder Tower. Several names flashed through Fan Zuanlui's mind. He finally denied them one by one. No matter who it is, I will peel off your skin. Fan Zuanlui's face was gloomy. The destruction of the Nine Thunder Tower could not be concealed no matter what. So this matter could only be fought to the death and an explanation was given. Suddenly, Fan Zuanlui's face changed. He stopped and looked around. This was a wilderness official road. The night was dark, and the mountain moon was hanging high. Boundary? Which spiritual master plotted against me? Fan Zuanlui sneered. He could feel that he had rushed into a barrier. This barrier seemed to have no lethality, but just block the outside sounds. Similarly, the sounds inside the barrier should not be transmitted. Fan Zuanlui, long time no see. A strong and tall figure slowly walked out of the shadows. It's you? Fan Zuanlui was surprised when he saw the person coming. He thought of many people's faces, but he couldn't think of this face. Because this person was chased by him half a year ago. Are you surprised? Isn't it that in the martial arts world, you kill me, and I kill you? Qin Yang smiled. So, you did so much tonight, just to lure me out of the Lisha sect. Fan Zuanlui probably understood what was going on. I'm not sure about me. Anyway, I'll kill anyone who passes by here. I didn't expect you to come to my door. Qin Yang said indifferently. You're not qualified to say such things when you were chased by me like a dead dog half a year ago. I'll let you escape with a lucky chance before, but you didn't cherish it and came to my door. Fan Zuanlui smiled disdainfully. Then you try it. Who will die? Qin Yang pulled out the cold dragon knife. Jumping clown. Fan Zuanlui stretched out his right hand, and the violent and terrifying power of thunder condensed crazily, turning into a thunder spear. Rumble at this time. The sky also rang with dense and dull thunder, as if to cheer Fan Zuanlui. Lightning flash. In an instant, Fan Zuanlui rushed to Qin Yang, with the lightning spear in his hand generating arcs, and thrusting it out fiercely. This spear was so fast that there was no sound. This meant that the lightning spear's burst speed was faster than the speed of sound. Qin Yang's eyes condensed, and an extremely cold and deep breath spread out. A shadow of Zuanwu appeared behind him, and he slashed out with a knife. The Sea of Death and the Sea of Death. The death intention contained in this knife was so terrible that it even startled Fan Zuanlui. With a clang, the moment the knife and spear collided, Fan Zuanlui felt himself sinking into the Sea of Death, and a strange thought emerged in his mind. Am I dead? Exclamation mark. However, as a martial saint, Fan Zuanlui's mind was also very strong, and he reacted immediately. He was experienced, and his whole body suddenly burst out his own lightning energy. Boom. Qin Yang just appeared and attacked, and the cold dragon knife was wrapped in sharp white light and chopped out. Thunder and lightning snakes raged in the sky, constantly colliding with the cold dragon knife. This gave Fan Zuanlui some time to react. The lightning spear thrust out fiercely, just colliding with the attacking cold dragon knife. With a bang, the two terrible vitality collided, and turned into a violent storm. Qin Yang and Fan Zuanlui separated and retreated at the same time. Martial Saint. No wonder you dare to come to my door. So you have reached the realm of Martial Saint. Fan Zuanlui held the lightning spear with a surprised look. Half-step Martial Saint and Martial Saint seem to be only half a step away. But this half step may not be possible for many people to take in their entire lives. It is too difficult to reach the ultimate sublimation of martial arts. Talent, opportunity, accumulation and other factors must be intertwined to make a breakthrough. So you can die. Qin Yang smiled. What nonsense are you talking about? Even if you step into the realm of martial saint, you will still be defeated by me. Fan Zuanloi's eyes were invincible. Then come on. Fan Zuanloi, let's have a real fight. Qin Yang's eyes were excited. Rumble, there seemed to be a sound of a tsunami in his body. The sharp and fierce cold energy spread. The muscles all over his body swelled and grew larger, and there was a faint sound of steel noose. Chapter 315, Dragon Subduing. This guy Fan Zuanloi felt the breath emanating from Qin Yang at this moment, and his face changed slightly. Of course, he just thought it would be a little tricky. The one who laughed last was still him. Boom. With long purple hair fluttering, Fan Zuanloi held the thunder spear in his hand, surrounded by brilliant lightning, and rushed towards Qin Yang like the god of thunder. Come. Qin Yang shouted. For the past 6 months, he has been sinking to the bottom of the river, neither alive nor dead, just for this moment. Boom. Boom. The two sides fought frantically. The thunder spear and the cold dragon knife violently and intensively bombarded each other. Groups of lightning exploded. The sharp cold air swept out, cutting deep marks on the ground, and then froze it. The spear method used by Fan Zuanloi was also open and closed, mixed with extremely strong explosive power, like thunder falling from the sky. Qin Yang's sword method was murderous, and the sword light was bloody, as terrifying as the Shura Blood Sea. This explosive power. Zhao Zinmo watched the two fighting in the dark. His eyes widened. The intensity was too great. In just a few breaths, the two sides exchanged more than 100 moves, and each move was powerful. Zhao Zinmo felt that, if he went up, he might not be able to withstand 3 moves. The rhythm was too suffocating. Extreme thunder and lightning. Fan Zuanloi didn't expect Qin Yang to be able to take so many of his moves without revealing any flaws. But if there are no flaws, then create one. In an instant, the lightning spear in his hand flashed wildly, turning into a thunder python, opening its fangs, and biting Qin Yang fiercely. Fan Zuanloi's explosion was very sudden, just to catch Qin Yang off guard. Well done. Qin Yang grinned, and swung the cold dragon knife violently, and his aura became more violent. Desolate sea, raging sea, roaring. The dark sea moment emphasizes instant kills. This raging sea roaring uses infinite power to directly swallow and drown the enemy. Qin Yang slashed with a knife. The momentum of this knife was too majestic, like a raging sea, raising terrible waves. Bang! The lightning spear and the cold dragon knife collided fiercely. The two weapons broke and exploded at the same time. Fan Zuanloi's figure was pushed back 5 or 6 meters. What an amazing strength. It's a pity that your knife is broken. Fan Zuanloi said sarcastically. As if showing off, he stretched out his right hand, and a lightning spear apt with electric arcs emerged. Qin Yang's weapon was broken, that was really gone. But his lightning spear, he could condense it at any time. Do you think you are the only one who can do this? Qin Yang sneered. The black tortoise phantom behind him roared, and suddenly turned into a black light, and fell on his hand. A dark and deep big knife with turtle patterns on the blade appeared in Qin Yang's hand. This knife was naturally condensed by Qin Yang's own vitality, exuding an extremely cold and fierce aura. Interesting. Fan Zuanloi narrowed his eyes. The next moment, he suddenly threw the spear in his hand. In an instant, the spear turned into dozens of lightning snakes and attacked from the air. Qin Yang roared and rushed forward with his sword. The blood and ki in his body circulated the Wu Jiling Fu, and his whole body was covered with green light. Zzzz, the lightning snakes shot down Qin Yang, and the lightning flashed. Fan Zuanloi frowned slightly. The next moment, a deep knife light shattered the broken lightning and slashed towards Fan Zuanloi in a strange and rapid manner. The desolate sea and the dark sea in a moment. Fan Zuanloi roared, and both hands flashed with lightning, and lightning spears emerged and crossed in front of him. With a bang, the Zen Wu Yuan Dao and the two lightning spears were all transformed into violent vitality and shattered. This is the disadvantage of weapons condensed by vitality. Although it is convenient, it is not as hard as some magic weapons. But Qin Yang showed a grim smile, exerted force with his right leg, and kicked Fan Zuanloi's waist and abdomen fiercely. Fan Zuanloi was not afraid either. He was also good at close combat. He gathered violent lightning in his right hand and pressed it down with one palm. Bang! Qin Yang suddenly burst out with terrible strength and hit a white star falling into the sea. Bang! Fan Zhuanlei was hit in the chest by a punch, and the thunder energy protecting his body was shattered in an instant, and he stepped back fiercely. Qin Yang approached him instantly and used the dragon subduing fist. At this moment, he seemed as terrible as a god, and every punch seemed to be able to break the mountains and rivers. Fan Zhuanlei kept waving his palms, but was suppressed by Qin Yang. Qin Yang's strength completely exploded at this moment, suppressing him so that he could not fight back. After dozens of moves, Fan Zhuanlei suffered heavy blows one after another. His blood and ki were turbulent, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood mist. Qin Yang immediately blasted out a divine power to suppress the sea. He clenched his 5 fingers, his fist flashed with deep coldness, and hit the opponent's head fiercely. Fan Zhuanlei superimposed his palms, urged the thunder energy, and barely caught it. The next moment, bang! Qin Yang used his left hand to strike a heavy whip, hitting his left shoulder fiercely. Fan Zhuanlei screamed, the flesh and bones on his left shoulder shattered, and he retreated several steps. Kill him. Zhao Zhenmo, who was standing by, screamed excitedly. 9 heavens thunder evil. Fan Zhuanlei's eyes widened, and he roared wildly. Boom. A bolt of lightning suddenly fell from the sky and hit him. Qin Yang instantly felt that something was wrong with Fan Zhuanlei's energy. The next second, Fan Zhuanlei's body suddenly expanded, turning into a giant more than 3 meters tall, with lightning wrapped around his body. He seemed to lose his mind and grabbed Qin Yang with both hands. This explosive power, Qin Yang struck out with a palm. Bang! The next moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly shot out from the opponent's body and hit Qin Yang fiercely. Even though the Wuji spiritual body melted the lightning, the impact still made Qin Yang retreat several meters. After Fan Zhuanlei used the secret method, he became extremely crazy and violent. His 2 big hands were wrapped in lightning, turning into giant claws of thunder, and slapped Qin Yang fiercely. Ha 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 ha. Kill. Qin Yang also laughed up to the sky, his eyes turned black and white, and he rushed forward fiercely. Dragon Elephant Unparalleled Dance. Boom. A bloody and extremely cruel fight. Zhao Zhenmo was terrified watching from the side. For a moment, he didn't know who had the upper hand. Both sides were constantly injured. Qin Yang's body had long been scratched, bloody, burnt and black. Fan Zhuanlei was also beaten, so that his facial features were deformed, his limbs were twisted, and his whole body was stained with white frost. Boy, I underestimated you. But you can't beat me. Fan Zhuanlei sneered and opened his right hand suddenly. His 5 fingers flashed with terrifying lightning, and suddenly turned into 5 thunder and lightning giant snakes that roared and roared wantonly, pressing towards Qin Yang fiercely. Thunder snake bite. Qin Yang licked his lips. His scarred body swelled up fiercely, and his aura became as powerful as the sea, invincible. He clenched his 5 fingers and shouted, "Dragon falling, heaven collapses and earth splits." Boom. A god seemed to appear behind Qin Yang. The god's expression was extremely angry, and his facial features were ferocious. When the god was angry, the sky collapsed, and the earth split, and the mountains and rivers shifted. Qin Yang's right hand flashed with a terrible white light, and the muscles in his arm piled up and squirmed, and he blasted out fiercely. The moment of fist and claw blasting. The barrier that Zhao Zhenmo had been struggling to maintain could no longer hold up, and it shattered with a bang. The terrible gale generated by the collision even forced him to hide further away, until the vitality energy dissipated. Zhao Zhenmo looked hurriedly. I saw a figure standing in the charred earth, as majestic and powerful as a god. Chapter 316 Ghost Face. Qin Yang looked at the broken body on the ground, his eyes full of satisfaction. He had been in this world for so long, and the biggest loss he had suffered was being hunted by Fan Zhuanlei. Are you okay? Zhao Zhenmo ran to Qin Yang and asked. Leave here first, if you can still move. Otherwise, when the people from the Leisha sect arrive, we will have to fight again. Qin Yang used his remaining ki and blood to control the violent thunder power in his body. These thunder powers raged wildly, destroying his flesh and blood, paralyzing his body. The fact that he could still move only showed that his physique was indeed strong. Well, your last move was really too loud. Zhao Zhenmo nodded. The two of them used all their strength to quickly leave this charred land. Half an incense stick later, an old figure quickly came. It was Zhao Guanshan, the great elder of the Lisha sect. He was originally in charge of the Lisha sect, but suddenly felt a very strong ki fluctuation coming from Nijiuli city. As a martial saint, Zhao Guanshan knew that there must be a martial saint fighting nearby, and it was extremely intense to produce such fluctuations. He could not sit still, and left the Lisha sect to check the situation. Then he saw a broken body lying on the ground. The chest of the body was completely shattered, and the skin was covered with cold frost. Master? Zhao Guanshan was shocked when he saw the body, then hesitated and finally showed joy. Good death, good death. Zhao Guanshan laughed with ecstasy. Then, he suddenly regained his calm and showed a sad look. After a while, people from the Lisha sect came one after another, and they were also extremely shocked when they saw Fan Zuanlui's body. No one would have thought that Fan Zuanlui died like this. Who is it? Who killed the master? Could it be that the collapse of the Nine Thunder Tower tonight was a conspiracy? It should be that this matter must be investigated thoroughly to avenge the master. The elders of the Lisha sect were extremely angry. At this time, a voice sounded. Grand Elder, once the leader dies, how will things be arranged in the future? An elder asked. Zhao Guanshan was waiting for this sentence and smiled and said, first, transport the body of leader Fan back to the sect. As for the murderer, I will definitely find out the truth. There are only two martial saints in the Lisha sect. One is Fan Zuanlui and the other is Zhao Guanshan. Now that Fan Zuanlui is dead, Zhao Guanshan is the most important. So now when Zhao Guanshan speaks, the people of the Lisha sect subconsciously obey. In the next few days, the Lisha sect was in turmoil. Once Fan Zuanlui died, Zhao Guanshan took the position of leader. As for tracking down the murderer, it was just thunder and rain. Because Zhao Guanshan put all his energy into eliminating the remaining forces of Fan Zuanlui. After all, Fan Zuanlui has been in the Lisha sect for so long, and his power is too huge. It is not so easy to break it up. At this time, tracking down the murderer is meaningless for Zhao Guanshan. Night. The headmaster's hall. Master, Fan Zuanlui's sons have all been dealt with. As for the elders, who have been opposing you in the church, when do you think we should start? A sinister looking man said softly. No hurry. Send the heads of Fan Zuanlui's sons one each. They should know what's good for them. Zhao Guanshan smiled. I understand. The sinister man smiled knowingly and left. Fan Zuanlui didn't expect you to die so easily. After being suppressed by you for decades, I finally got to sit on this chair. Zhao Guanshan sat alone on the headmaster's chair and laughed. Master Zhao is in a good mood. A sinister voice suddenly came into the headmaster's hall. Who? Zhao Guanshan frowned and looked at the hall door. A white-robed man with a ghost mask flew in lightly. It turned out to be you. Did you succeed in killing that man last time? Zhao Guanshan saw this man and asked softly. This guy is the contact person of the killer organization Yanlu Lao. No. According to the clues we have, that person is not as simple as the half-step martial saint you said. His cultivation has reached the realm of martial saint. His strength may even exceed that of the sensory martial saint. The white-robed man said lightly. It is impossible that the guy was chased and killed by Fan Zuanlui half a year ago. In just half a year, he can make such rapid progress? Zhao Guanshan frowned. Normal people can't do it, but what if it is the blood of immortals and Buddhas? The white-robed ghost-faced man asked with a smile. The blood of immortals and Buddhas. Zhao Guanshan's face changed slightly. In the past 6 months, not only have terrifying geniuses appeared, but the blood of immortals and Buddhas has long been no secret. After being reminded by the ghost-faced man, he felt that this explanation was very reasonable. After all, the blood of immortals and Buddhas itself is beyond the understanding of ordinary people. It is not that difficult for those who have the blood of immortals and Buddhas to break through to the martial saint in half a year. So if you want us to take action in Yanluo Tower, you must raise the price. The ghost-faced man smiled. Then forget it. After what you said, I roughly guessed who attacked Fan Zuanlui. I have no grudge against that person, so why would I provoke him? Zhao Guanshan shook his head directly. How could he offend a promising immortal Buddha bloodline just to avenge Fan Zuanlui? Then the deposit you gave before cannot be refunded at all. Because this is your own intelligence error. The ghost-faced man did not say much. I can't afford to offend you Yanluo Tower, so if you don't want it, then don't want it, Zhao Guanshan said helplessly. Anyway, he is now the head of the Lisha sect. These losses will only make him feel distressed for a while, and he will be able to earn it back soon. You are really willing to give up? The ghost-faced man laughed himself. There is gain only when there is loss. The Lisha sect is not under my control now. I don't want to provoke my enemies anymore, Zhao Guanshan said directly. Well, our previous agreement is invalid. Welcome to cooperate with our Yanluo Tower next time. The ghost-faced man said no more, and his figure flashed, and he disappeared from the hall. Blood of Immortal Buddha. Fan Zuanlui, you really deserve to die, Zhao Guanshan said to himself, and then laughed out loud. In his heart, he even thanked Qin Yang. If it weren't for Qin Yang, he might never have been able to sit on the position of the leader in his life. In a dark valley, the ghost-faced man quietly walked into a cave in the valley. The pale candlelight flickered, and the walls were hung with dead heads with different expressions. A man with a smiley mask was holding a brush, carefully observing the expressions of these dead heads, and then depicting their expressions. Zhao Guanshan gave up chasing the blood of Immortal Buddha. The ghost-faced man said lightly. Normal. Zhao Guanshan just wanted to sit firmly on the position of the leader. Why would he cause such trouble? The smiley man said, while waving the brush. Then we give up. The ghost-faced man asked. Chapter 317. Destroying the Heaven. According to the rules, we should have given up. But this guy has the blood of immortals and Buddhas. The great Yama has recently been studying an ancient evil technique that is said to be able to transplant the blood of immortals and Buddhas. This guy has a mysterious origin, and no trace can be found in Xianfeng continent. He is most likely from the outside continent. In other words, he has no foundation in Xianfeng continent. He has the blood of immortals and Buddhas, but no foundation. He is naturally the best candidate for a search. The smiling man smiled. At this time, a hideous and frightened dead head was emerging vividly on the rice paper. It seems that this kid has a bad fate. He was actually targeted by the great Yama. The ghost-faced man felt a little pity. But this guy is quite powerful. He was able to kill Fan Zuanlui. If we want to assassinate him, I'm afraid you and I alone are not enough. The great Yama will send someone to help us, the smiling man said. Which Yama is it? The ghost-faced man asked curiously. In the Yama Tower, there are 4 Yamas. These 4 Yamas have all entered the realm of martial saints and their strength is unfathomable. The great Yama is the leader of the 4 Yamas, equivalent to the owner of the Yama building. It should be Bei Yanluo. Since we succeeded in assassinating the martial saint last time, many forces have come to us, but only Bei Yanluo has time to come. The smiling man said softly. Bei Yanluo is such a miserable kid. He happened to meet this guy. The ghost-faced man shook his head. He seemed to have more pity for Qin Yang. Go and prepare. We must always keep track of that guy's whereabouts. The smiling man's tone was more serious. It will take some time. After they attacked and killed Fan Zuanlui, they should have gone in the direction of Qian Kinman. That person also has a spiritual master who can hide his appearance. It will take some time to lock his whereabouts. The ghost-faced man said seriously. Lock his whereabouts as soon as possible. If Bei Yanluo comes and can't find him, you will not have a good result. The smiling man said in a deep voice. I know. The ghost-faced man curled his lips. Qin Yang and Zhao Xinmo naturally didn't know that the Lisha sect was in civil strife and had no time to pay attention to the two of them. Of course, even if the Lisha cult retaliates, Qin Yang will not be afraid. He has fully recovered his strength in the past few days. If Zhao Guanshan brings people to kill him, it is not certain who is afraid of whom. 5 days later, they came to a small town called Changchang, found a restaurant, and ordered a few side dishes. How is it, now that the revenge has been taken? What are you going to do next? Zhao Xinmo picked up a piece of garlic sprouts and twice cooked pork and asked casually. Qin Yang picked up the wine pot and took a sip and said lightly, I plan to stay in this Xianfeng continent. I knew that people like you would not think of returning to Kunshan continent. Zhao Xinmo was not surprised at all. With Qin Yang's current cultivation, there may not be many people who can match him when he returns to Kunshan continent. Compared with Xi and Feng continent, Kunshan continent is indeed too weak, and there is no challenge for Qin Yang. For Qin Yang's character who constantly wants to become stronger, it is difficult to accept. It is different in Xi and Feng continent. There are countless huge sects here, as well as some ancient holy places, and masters are everywhere. The martial saint is not invincible here. There are stronger challenges here, of course, which also means more risks and difficulties. What about you? Qin Yang asked back. I don't want to go back either. Xi and Feng continent is much more fun than Kunshan continent. And there are more books on ghost species here. Zhao Zinmo smiled. For a research enthusiast like him, studying ghost species is extremely attractive. Tell me the truth. Why are you so obsessed with ghost species? Do you want to become a savior and find a way to deal with ghost species? Qin Yang asked curiously. This kind of question would definitely not be asked if the relationship was not close to a certain extent. You think too much. Don't you think the power of ghost species is magical? If an ordinary person holds a sacrificial ceremony and summons a high-level ghost weapon, he can have tremendous power. This kind of power is a power that many geniuses cannot achieve after decades of hard work. Even you have to spend some effort to deal with it. Zhao Zinmo smiled. If this answer is given to others, it will only make Zhao Zinmo think that he is crazy. Because in order to obtain the power of ghost species, you must be contaminated by it and become a monster. But Qin Yang was surprised and asked, you want to steal the power of the ghost seed? What do you mean by stealing? I'm inventing a new cultivation system. Zhao Zinmo said seriously. As long as I find a way to remove the pollution of the ghost seed, I can continue to absorb the ghost seed to gain power. By then, even if the immortals and Buddhas are resurrected, they will call me Taoist when they see me. Zhao Zinmo's tone became crazy. You guy, remember to be careful. If you are infected by the ghost weapon and ghost seed, I will do it myself. Qin Yang said lightly. He did not mean to stop Zhao Zinmo, but just reminded him. Because the group of spiritual masters is a group of extremely crazy people. And Zhao Zinmo is the best among them. Don't worry. I don't want to become one of those monsters. Zhao Zinmo nodded and said, by the way, during the days you were sleeping at the bottom of the lake, I studied a lot of history of Xi and Feng continent. Then I found something interesting. Qin Yang raised his eyebrows. So interesting? This matter must be not simple to make Zhao Zinmo find it interesting. Many years ago, not long after the end of the mythological era, the Great Qin Kingdom sent many masters here. And not only the Great Qin Kingdom, but also other continents sent masters here and gathered together in this Xi and Feng continent. Zhao Zinmo said softly. The Great Qin Kingdom sent people here. Qin Yang's mind immediately thought of Xuanwu sect. The residual soul of the Taoist priest of Xuanwu sect once mentioned the battle of destroying the heavens to him. At that time, more than 3,000 people from Xuanwu sect died in this war. Is it the battle of destroying the heavens? Qin Yang couldn't help but ask. You know about it too? Zhao Zinmo was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Qin Yang to know this. I've only heard of this name, but I don't know what it is. Qin Yang shook his head. I don't know much about this battle of destroying the heavens. Zhao Zinmo also picked up a wine pot and drank. From the few words I found in the ancient books, I know that the so-called battle to destroy the heavens should have taken place in the Xi and Feng continent. At that time, all the masters from several continents rushed over. Just by talking about it, you should know how terrifying the battle to destroy the heavens was. In that era, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth had not yet dried up, and many powerful people who ascended to heaven pursued the path of immortals and Buddhas, shining with peerless brilliance. Even the martial saint was not a big shot in that era. This is probably the most terrifying and fiercest battle since the mythological era. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Dead Tree. Zhao Zinmo continued. So I think the battle of destroying the heavens is an important turning point after the mythological era. After the battle of destroying the heavens, the spiritual energy was completely exhausted, the ghost species disappeared, and the fierce monsters hid. The warriors and spiritual masters were also constantly weakened, and the power of the human race was greatly reduced. But after all, it was stable for tens of thousands of years. Until now, the forbidden technique of isolating the heaven and earth has failed, and everything seems to be returning to the mythological era. Qin Yang's eyes flickered. It seems that this battle of destroying the heavens is really extraordinary. Of course. I just don't know where this battle of destroying the heavens took place in the Xi and Feng continent. In all the ancient books I have consulted, there is no detailed information. Zhao Zinmo said in a deep voice. Maybe the information you have come into contact with is not deep enough. Qin Yang said softly. Well, there may be records in the classics of some sex book pavilions. Zhao Zinmo smiled slightly. After the two of them had enough food and drink, they took a short rest and set off again. They wanted to stay away from the Lisha sect. 3 days later, they came to a wilderness. This place is called Damang Mountain. There are many ferocious beasts in the mountain. Recently, a ferocious monster has appeared and killed many hunters and herbalists who entered the mountain. The nearby villagers were scared and moved away. After Qin Yang learned about the situation here, he planned to live in seclusion here. We should be getting closer and closer to the monster. Zhao Zinmo stepped on the thick fallen leaves and looked at the dense forest, saying softly, "Here it comes." Qin Yang suddenly said, "Boom." The whole dense forest suddenly trembled, and trees were constantly knocked down and broken. Zhao Zinmo was so scared that he hurriedly hid behind Qin Yang. Once the monster awakened its own bloodline, it is not easy to mess with. If Qin Yang hadn't taken the lead, he would not dare to appear here. Qin Yang's eyes condensed. A huge bison over 3 meters tall with thick hair appeared in his eyes. The muscles of this bison were too terrifying, especially when it charged. The muscles all over its body seemed like tree tumors. Knotted and hideous. The wild bull demon became even crazier when he saw Qin Yang. He lowered his head and charged at him with his 2 dark blue horns. The momentum was like that of a heavy truck weighing tens of thousands of tons, with the accelerator blasting. Qin Yang took a deep breath, and his muscles and bones made a squeezing and rubbing sound like a steel noose. His body expanded rapidly and became more than 2 meters tall. His muscles bulged and he punched out fiercely. Dragon subduing, divine power to suppress the sea. At this moment, he was as powerful as the sea and had infinite strength, like a god descending to the world, trying to subdue the demons. Boom. With a loud noise, the explosive gale spread with a roar. Those tough and tall trees were instantly cracked and shattered by the gale. In just a moment, this dense forest no longer existed, and no tree could stand. The blue bull demon lay on the ground, bleeding from his mouth and nose, and his 4 hooves twitching constantly. "Do you accept it?" Qin Yang looked down at the blue bull demon and shouted coldly. The 2 eyes of the green bull demon flashed with ferocity, and a roar came out of its mouth. Bang! The next moment, Qin Yang stomped hard with an infinite force. Boom. The forest shook violently. "Submit or not? Let me see if you still submit or not." Qin Yang stomped on the green bull demon for more than 10 times in a row. Such a huge force made the green bull demon's huge body sink deeply into the mud. The head was even crushed to pieces, and blood and flesh burst out. "One last question for you. Submit or not?" Qin Yang said lightly. This time, the green bull no longer had the previous ferocity and unruliness, only fear and weakly mood. Although he couldn't understand the cow language, Zhao Zinmo could hear that the tone of the bull demon was actually begging for submission. "Is this okay?" Zhao Zinmo didn't expect that a fierce demon would be subdued by Qin Yang like this. Of course, it can only be said to be temporarily subdued at present. This green bull demon might have a rebellious mind and will rebel one day. However, Zhao Zinmo felt that the chances were slim. With Qin Yang's speed of improvement, he couldn't beat him now, and he would never be able to beat him in the future. The only thing he was worried about was that the green bull would escape. "Is there any way for me to lock onto the location of this bull demon at any time?" Qin Yang had originally had a sudden idea and wanted to see if he could subdue this monster. Unexpectedly, the bones of this bull demon were not as hard as he imagined. "Of course there is, and it's best to do it now." Zhao Zinmo smiled. He asked Qin Yang for a drop of blood essence and gently dripped it between the eyebrows of the bull demon. Zhuangsu Shaoxin Zhao Zinmo chanted a spell and drew a special symbol on the forehead of the bull demon. Speaking of which, this is still the secret method of beast control of the Nanmang aliens. Now you should be able to sense the location of this bull demon at any time, Zhao Zinmo said. Qin Yang nodded gently. He did have a strange feeling now, and his sense of this bull demon was particularly strong. After dealing with the green bull monster, Qin Yang built several bamboo houses in a bamboo forest and lived in seclusion there. It was late at night and the moonlight fell on the bamboo forest. The seriously injured green bull monster lay beside the bamboo house, dying. If it hadn't awakened the blood of the monster beast, it would not have survived. Qin Yang sat cross-legged on the bamboo bed, recalling a mysterious practice method in his mind. Deadwood Immortal Sutra. In the secret realm of Wuhua Immortal Mansion, in addition to harvesting the spirit bud whose use was unknown, there was only this mysterious practice method left. However, as soon as he left the secret realm of the Immortal Mansion, he was hunted down by Fan Zuanlui and sank into the river for half a year. After breaking through the martial saint, he thought about revenge, and only now did he have time to study this practice method. Deadwood Immortal Sutra. This practice method is the same as the Bidao Zen Wu Zuanjing, which is also a practice method. However, Qin Yang found that there was a lot of information in this practice method that he could not view, as if it was locked. The current practice method that can be viewed can only be practiced to the heavenly realm. Qin Yang felt that this was a protective mechanism. Perhaps his current realm was not enough to check the cultivation method after becoming an immortal. Let's practice it first. Qin Yang did not think that this Deadwood Immortal Sutra would conflict with Bidao Zen Wu Zuangong. Deadwood is deadwood, but it contains a trace of vigorous vitality and infinite mysteries. This method is completely different from the powerful Bidao Zen Wu Zuangong. This is a very gentle method with almost no offensiveness. From Qin Yang's senses, this method seems to be more like an auxiliary method. Soon, Qin Yang entered the state of cultivation. Deadwood Immortal Sutra is the method of immortals. In addition to the method of luck, the state of visualization is naturally indispensable. Qin Yang imagined himself turning into a dead tree. The deadwood state of death was too familiar to Qin Yang, and he quickly entered the state. Then the most important thing was a trace of tenacious vitality deep in the deadwood. Qin Yang recalled his state of mind when he sank to the bottom of the river. The state of life and death of the deadwood was quickly understood by him. When his ki, mind, and ki and blood reached a certain degree of harmony, a light green ki emanated from his 5 internal organs. Chapter 319 Green Ox. As if sensing the birth of the deadwood energy, the Bidao Zen Wu energy in his body also began to circulate uncontrollably. Then the deadwood energy seemed to be nourished by something and grew wildly. This situation caught Qin Yang off guard. He originally thought that the Bidao Zen Wu energy and the deadwood energy would be in a distinct state, but he didn't expect that there would be such a complementary effect. No, it should be the water and the 5 element that gives birth to wood. The Bidao Zen Wu energy belongs to water, and the deadwood energy belongs to wood. That's why this situation is formed. Qin Yang's expression moved slightly. He calmed down and practiced quietly. The Deadwood Immortal Sutra was running rapidly in his body, over and over again. The speed of operation was beyond Qin Yang's imagination. Wait until the next day. Qin Yang finished practicing and opened the proficiency panel. Host, Qin Yang Bidao Zen Wu Zuangong. 10th level, 399 over 12,000. Divine power, overturning rivers and seas. Deadwood Immortal Sutra. 1st level, 319 thousandths. Dragon Subduing Fist, minor success, 3886/4000, Wuji Spirit Body Sutra. 7th level, 1672/7000, Desolate C9 Swords, minor success, 3281/4000, Wild Thunder Step, Mastery. 1245/1500, practicing so fast. When Qin Yang saw the proficiency of Deadwood Immortal Sutra, he was shocked. This was equivalent to him brushing more than 300 proficiency points in one night. It should be because of the blessing of Bidao Zen Wu's vitality that the practice is so fast in this way. I don't have to worry about wasting time practicing 2 techniques in the future. Qin Yang was delighted. After practicing Deadwood Immortal Sutra, he felt that his already terrifying physique was undergoing a transformation. The 5 internal organs are emitting the deadwood vitality at all times, nourishing the muscles and bones. His vitality is getting stronger and stronger. Then it's time to practice the rest of the martial arts. Qin Yang pushed open the door. The blue bull demon, who was dying last night, was able to barely stand up after a night of recovery. This recovery ability is indeed strong enough. When the blue bull demon saw Qin Yang, his eyes were obviously afraid, and he lowered his head hurriedly. If you are hungry, go find food yourself. Just don't eat people, Qin Yang said lightly. The blue bull demon seemed to understand Qin Yang's words and limped away from the bamboo forest to hunt. Aren't you afraid that this bull demon will run away? Zhao Zinmo just came out of the bamboo house next to him and asked curiously. I'm just letting it go. If I don't beat it a few more times, this beast won't learn its lesson, Qin Yang said lightly. Poor guy Zhao Zinmo seemed to have seen the scene of Qin Yang beating the blue bull. But the fact is indeed so. As soon as the green bull left the bamboo forest, it spread its 4 hooves and ran wildly, looking as if it was not injured. As a demon beast, its recovery ability and physique are terrifyingly strong. The previous appearance was just a show for Qin Yang. However, when it rushed to the entrance of the mountain range, it saw a figure leaning quietly on an old tree, looking at him with a squint. A beast is a beast after all. Do you think you can deceive me by faking injury? Qin Yang smiled. The green bull monster's eyes flashed with panic and fear. The next second, Qin Yang rushed over at high speed and punched the bull monster's head fiercely. Boom. The forest shook violently again, disturbing many flying birds. This stupid bull must have been beaten hard again. Zhao Zinmo, who was reading a book in the bamboo forest, heard these movements and shook his head slightly. In a secret room somewhere. Why haven't you found that person yet? The smiling man frowned. No. We traced them all the way and found that the last place they appeared was a small town controlled by Qin Yang sect. But they didn't stay in the city for long. They just went to the restaurant to have a meal and left in a hurry. Since then, there has been no trace of these 2 people. The ghost-faced man frowned. Could it be that they discovered our existence and hid on purpose? The smiling man was puzzled. With the intelligence capabilities of Yanluo Tower, as long as the man and his companions appeared in any city, they would be discovered soon. Even if they used illusions to cover their faces, it would be useless, because Yanluo Tower naturally had the means to identify them. But now the man has completely disappeared. How many days will it take for Bei Yanluo to arrive? The ghost-faced man asked nervously. If Qin Yang was not found before Bei Yanluo came, he would be in big trouble. You are lucky. There seems to be some unusual movement in the desolate moon forbidden land. The great Yanluo sent Bei Yanluo there. The plan to hunt down that person has been temporarily stopped. You should find out the whereabouts of that person first. The smiling man said lightly. You didn't tell me earlier. I was so scared. The ghost-faced man breathed a sigh of relief. In this way, his life was saved. Don't be too happy too soon. The hunting plan is just suspended. Who knows when some Yama will be sent here, when he has time. If you don't tell me, you will die. The smiling man said indifferently. I know I will continue to track down that person's whereabouts. I wonder what happened in the desolate moon forbidden land? The ghost-faced man asked curiously. The smiling man smiled and said, why don't you ask Bei Yanluo? Pretend I didn't ask. The ghost-faced man shook his head. Unless necessary, he didn't want to have any dealings with Bei Yanluo. This guy's too abnormal. 2 months passed in a blink of an eye. In the bamboo forest, the green bull monster ate bamboo casually. These days, it seems to have been able to control its body size. Now it looks no different from an ordinary green bull, except that its muscles are more developed. At this time, a young Taoist with a package on his back and a smile on his face walked into the bamboo forest. King Niu, I haven't seen you for half a month. Why do you become a vegetarian? Is it Qin Yang who abused you? Zhao Zinmo was very happy to see King Niu. But King Niu was very scared when he saw Zhao Zinmo. He ran away with all 4 hooves and disappeared in the bamboo forest in the blink of an eye. Why do you have to run so fast? It will cost you some blood. I'll deal with you later. Zhao Zinmo snorted coldly and walked towards the bamboo house. At this time, the bamboo house had been surrounded by bamboo to form a courtyard. Qin Yang was practicing the dragon subduing fist in the courtyard. He waved his fist casually, which could shake a lot of airwaves, bending a large piece of bamboo, and the bamboo leaves kept falling and rustling. This kind of atmosphere seemed as if there was really an invisible dragon of airflow dancing with Qin Yang's movements. After a cup of tea, Qin Yang put away his fist. "Why are you here?" Qin Yang was a little surprised. Zhao Xinmo left the bamboo forest more than a month ago. This guy didn't know what means. He used to sneak into the Qin sect and became a worshipper. Qin sect is also a first-class force in Feng continent, so naturally it has many ancient books. Zhao Xinmo stayed in Qin sect and was not seen for a long time. "I need your help," Zhao Xinmo said seriously. "Tell me about it," Qin Yang said lightly. Suddenly, his eyes fell on the package behind Zhao Xinmo. "What is this thing?" Chapter 320 Research. "I knew I couldn't hide it from your eyes." Zhao Xinmo sat down at the stone table in the courtyard and carefully opened his bag. A few days ago, a medium-level ghost weapon appeared in a place in Qin sect. After all, I have been in Qin sect for more than a month. It is not right to live a life of free food and drink in it. I have to do some work. So I volunteered to deal with the medium-level ghost weapon. Qin Yang rolled his eyes. "Is this what you call dealing with it?" After Zhao Xinmo opened his bag, he saw a strange rope. The rope was dark red all over. At first glance, it looked more like a scarlet venomous snake with an extremely vicious aura. There were more than a dozen spiritual talismans on the rope, which seemed to suppress the rope. "I call this a seal. Won't this ghost weapon also be unable to cause harm?" Zhao Xinmo explained. "Are you going to study this rope here?" Qin Yang asked. Only Zhao Xinmo could do it with a ghost weapon. "Well, some things are not convenient in Qin sect. Besides, I feel more at ease with you here." Zhao Xinmo laughed. "Whatever you say. I still say the same thing. Don't be contaminated by ghost weapons," Qin Yang reminded. "How can a medium-sized ghost weapon contaminate me?" Zhao Xinmo shook his head and said, "I have a discovery." As he said that, he took out a yellow stone the size of a walnut. This stone is somewhat similar to amber, crystal clear and emitting spiritual power fluctuations. "Is this a spiritual stone?" Qin Yang asked. "Yes." Zhao Xinmo took out a dagger and cut off some fine threads from the dark red rope. Then these threads seemed to wriggle like earthworms, constantly emitting malice, which looked very scary. When Zhao Xinmo put down the spiritual stone, these dark red threads rushed over like crazy and wrapped around the spiritual stone. In less than a moment, the spiritual stone was swallowed up. These threads actually merged together and turned into a thin rope the size of chopsticks, which suddenly shot towards Zhao Xinmo, looking for death. Zhao Xinmo snorted coldly, waved the dagger in his hand, urged the magic power, and directly cut the thin rope. Zizzy, the thin rope fell to the ground, burning continuously, and turned into sticky blood. "What a strong devouring power," Qin Yang muttered to himself. "I found that the devouring power of the ghost weapon is very strong. It seems to be able to devour the spiritual energy and essence of all things in the world, and then turn it into its own powerful power." Zhao Xinmo said in a deep voice. "You mean ghost weapons or stronger ghost species? They come not to pollute our world, but to devour the world." Qin Yang understood that should be it. "But these are the only discoveries at present." Zhao Xinmo nodded. "Then you can study it again," Qin Yang said softly. "This medium-level ghost weapon is not worth studying. It would be fun if I could get a ghost species back." Zhao Xinmo smiled. "Wait until I break through to the Ascension realm before talking about it." Qin Yang shook his head. "The realm of Martial Saint can only deal with high-level ghost weapons. If the ghost species is fully revived, it can only be dealt with by a warrior in the Heaven Ascension realm. It doesn't have to be a complete ghost species. It will be fine like Kiyi's before. Unfortunately, I haven't found any recently." Zhao Xinmo sighed. Compared with ghost species, ghost weapons seem to be unconscious pollution sources that only know how to devour pollution. Ghost species are not only more powerful, but also have some signs of consciousness. In other words, ghost species are more like living things. In a few years, you don't have to look for them. I believe the ghost species will come to you." Qin Yang smiled. "Really? No, I have to hurry up." Zhao Xinmo felt that time was running out, so he didn't say much to Qin Yang. He picked up the dark red rope and went back to his room to study. Qin Yang ignored him and opened the proficiency panel. Host, Qin Yang Bidao Zen Wuzu and Gong. 10th level, 6399/12,000. Divine power, overturning rivers and seas. Deadwood Immortal Sutra, 6th level, 319/4000. Dragon subduing fist. Great accomplishment, 26/6000. Wuji Spirit Body Sutra, 8th level, 72/8000. Wild Sea 9 Swords, great accomplishment, 899/6000. Crazy Thunder Step, great accomplishment, 345/4000. With the blessing of Bidao Zenwu's vitality, the Deadwood Immortal Sutra made rapid progress and reached the 6th level in 2 months. Qin Yang's vitality reached an incomprehensible level. He was even able to regenerate a broken limb. This also made him as energetic as a dragon and a tiger. He didn't need to rest at all. He spent 12 hours a day practicing hard and constantly improving his proficiency in various martial arts. A few days passed like this. Zhao Zinmo's research failed. The rope strangely unsealed him, thinking of polluting Zhao Zinmo. Fortunately, Zhao Zinmo was prepared and killed him. However, the bamboo house he was in was damaged and collapsed. After the accident, Zhao Zinmo returned to Qin sect in disgrace. But a few days later, he ran back again. Did you get the ghost weapon again? Qin Yang asked unexpectedly. No. This time it's a big deal. Zhao Zinmo said excitedly. What big deal? Qin Yang was a little surprised. Do you still remember the battle of destroying the sky that I mentioned to you before? There are many ancient books in Qin sect. After reading them, I found out that the place where the battle of destroying the sky took place was a place called Desolate Moon Forbidden Land. That is the forbidden land of death in Xianfeng continent. It is rumored that no one has ever walked out alive since entering. Zhao Zinmo said in a deep voice. Desolate Moon Forbidden Land. Qin Yang's expression moved slightly. Yes, and I received some news from Qin sect these days. With the revival of spiritual energy, even the usually silent Desolate Moon secret realm has frequently seen unusual movements. As a result, many sects and forces in Xianfeng continent have gone there. Zhao Zinmo said. That was the Forbidden Land, where the battle of destroying heaven took place. I don't know how many human warriors who ascended to heaven died there. Now that something unusual has happened, naturally many forces have heard the news and went to check it out. Do you want to go to the Desolate Moon Forbidden Land? Qin Yang understood what Zhao Zinmo meant. The Qin sect also plans to send people there. Of course I volunteered. Do you want to go? Zhao Zinmo asked. Qin Yang pondered for a while and said, I'll go too. He also wanted to know what the battle of destroying heaven was like back then. But I won't go with you. I'll go there by myself. Qin Yang added. That's fine. Here's the map. Keep it for now. I'm leaving tomorrow. Keep an eye on the time. Zhao Zinmo gave Qin Yang a map to the Desolate Moon Forbidden Land. The two chatted for a while, and Zhao Zinmo left in a hurry. He also had to hurry back to prepare some things. Qin Yang also returned to the bamboo house to pack some clothes. He didn't need to bring weapons. Since the frost dragon blade was broken, he even used his energy to condense the weapon when practicing the 9 blades of the wild sea. Of course, there was one thing that couldn't be left behind. Chapter 321 Departure. Spiritual Bud. It has been quite a while since he got this spiritual bud. Since practicing the Deadwood Immortal Sutra, Qin Yang would infuse some Deadwood vitality into it every day. This spiritual bud was completely absorbed, but there was no change. Qin Yang had no choice but to continue observing. He put the spiritual bud into the package, walked out of the bamboo house, and blew a whistle. Boom, the bamboo forest shook, and the green bull rushed over and stopped in front of Qin Yang. In the past 2 months, Qin Yang has completely tamed it, and now it has no resistance at all. I want to go out. You come with me. Qin Yang said softly. The Desolate Moon Forbidden Land must be full of masters now. When there are too many people, there will be disputes and endless fighting. Bring the green bull demon with you, so that you can have more helpers around you. When the green bull demon heard that he was going to leave here, he immediately became excited. These days, Qin Yang would find it to spar whenever he had time and beat it up every time. Now these hard days are finally over. Remember, once you leave the mountain range, you cannot kill anyone without my order. Do you understand? Qin Yang warned. King Niu nodded repeatedly. Then let's go. Qin Yang immediately jumped onto King Niu's back, obviously treating it as a mount. This was one of the reasons why he wanted to take King Niu out. This guy's foot speed was not slower than his own, and his physical strength and endurance were extremely strong. He could easily travel thousands of miles a day without having to walk by himself. King Niu immediately spread his four hooves and took Qin Yang out of the mountain range and headed towards the desolate moon forbidden land. The desolate moon forbidden land is located in a very remote area in the endless wilderness plain at the northernmost end of the Xian Feng continent. However, the Qian sect itself is located at the northern end of the Xian Feng continent and is relatively close. After spending more than half a month, they finally arrived at the city near the desolate moon forbidden land. This city is called Wanggao City, which is a city built by many sects, so that they can observe the changes in the desolate moon forbidden land at any time. But after the battle of destroying the sky, the spiritual energy was exhausted, and there was no movement in the forbidden land of desolate moon, except that people could not come out after entering. This led to the gradual loss of the role of Wanggao City itself, but its scale became larger and larger. Because this is not the territory of any sect, no sect would think of coming to occupy it. Many desperate people would run to Wanggao City, resulting in an increasing population. Now Wanggao City has become a huge city with a population of several million. There are all kinds of people here, and there are many monsters. Among them are some hidden masters. And with the continuous movement of the forbidden land of desolate moon, more people naturally come to Wanggao City, and now the streets and alleys are crowded with people. Warriors from the holy lands of major sects and solitary spiritual masters can be seen everywhere. But today, a figure caused some waves in Wanggao City. Why did this man lead a cow into the city? It doesn't look like a farmer coming to the city to sell cows. I've seen many people riding horses, but this is the first time I've seen people riding cows. Many warriors looked at the figure leading a big blue cow and talked about it. However, there were too many people in strange clothes in Wanggao City. Although the act of leading a cow was strange, no one paid attention to it soon. This person was naturally Qin Yang. Now the blue cow can hide its demonic aura, all thanks to the bell hanging on its neck. This is a magic weapon specially made by Zhao Zhenmo, which can cover up the huge demonic aura of the blue cow. It was also the first time for the blue cow to enter a human city in its life. It was very curious and kept looking around. Fortunately, Qin Yang was beside him, otherwise this guy would have run wildly in excitement. Where did this wild man come from? He actually led a cow here. A sarcastic voice suddenly sounded. It was a young man wearing a white tight suit and carrying a long sword. There were several people dressed in the same way beside him, who should be his fellow disciples. They also looked at Qin Yang with teasing and mocking eyes. Qin Yang glanced at him and smiled. The next moment, the green bull seemed to be out of control and rushed forward. The young man reacted quickly. He snorted coldly and was about to draw his sword to chop the green bull. As a result, the green bull accelerated suddenly, and its huge body left a shadow. Bang! The young man screamed, and was knocked to the ground by the green bull in an instant. The green bull seemed to be still unsatisfied, and suddenly raised its hooves, and was about to trample on him fiercely. Enough! A figure flashed in front of the green bull and slapped it hard. Bang! The figure screamed, and was kicked to the ground by the green bull's hoof, spitting blood. Remember to control your mouth next time. Qin Yang spoke. When the green bull heard Qin Yang's words, it also obediently returned to his side. At this time, the warriors on the street saw that there was something exciting to watch and had already formed a big circle. He is from Beijianmen. Who is this man? He seems to be a bit mysterious when he leads the green bull. I've never seen him before. He actually dared to clash with Beijianmen. He seems to be a ruthless person. Qin Yang saw more and more people coming and was about to lead the green bull away. The few Beijianmen disciples who were still standing did not dare to stop him. Humph. Even if our previous words were a bit inappropriate, you don't have to be so cruel. A sharp aura suddenly locked onto Qin Yang. A thin old man squeezed through the crowd and stood in front of Qin Yang. This kid is in big trouble. This is a Tangxuan realm warrior. It seems that this kid is in trouble. The Beijianmen are all like this. They like to protect their shortcomings. Seeing this old man, the warriors watching looked at Qin Yang with sympathy. How dare he provoke these sect disciples alone? Who are you? Qin Yang's expression did not change, and he asked calmly. I'm the elder of Beijianmen, O Yushan. The old man said coldly. Oh. Qin Yang nodded. The next moment, he suddenly attacked, opened his right hand, and slapped the skinny old man fiercely. But the skinny old man was not a good guy either. He was also preparing to sneak attack Qin Yang. His right hand was a sword finger, and stabbed Qin Yang's eyes fiercely. Bang, the sound of bones breaking. The skinny old man screamed, and his whole arm was smashed by a palm, and he was slapped to the ground. Qin Yang didn't even look at him and left directly. But King Niu was very bad, and stepped on the skinny old man on purpose. Puff. The skinny old man was hit hard again, and another mouthful of old blood spurted out, which seemed to be mixed with some internal organs and minced meat. This time, the onlookers were completely shocked. Huanggai City itself has no order. These days, more and more warriors have poured in, and conflicts will naturally break out. But it is rare to be so cruel. This guy's really fierce. The White Sword sect has lost all its face this time. I guess there will be more good shows to watch later. As they talked, the onlookers had dispersed one after another. The disciples of Beijian sect hurriedly took the injured away. Qin Yang didn't take it seriously, thinking of finding an inn to stay in, and then asking about the forbidden land of Desolate Moon. But there were too many people coming to Huanggai City, and no one had vacancies. In the end, Qin Yang still found someone from the pawnbroker, and spent 300 taels of silver to rent a yard. Chapter 322 Movement. The yard is not big, with only one master bedroom and a kitchen. When Qin Yang settled down, the sun was setting, and it was about to get dark. Qin Yang then took out a spirit stone, and gave it to King Niu. This guy was now holding a mouthful and only 8 spirit stones. A few clicks. A spirit stone was swallowed by King Niu. After eating the spirit stone, this guy lay on the ground and slept happily. This guy. Qin Yang shook his head helplessly. This is the way monsters practice, constantly devouring spirit stones, and then digesting and absorbing them, while sleeping to enhance their strength. When he was about to leave King Niu in the yard, and go out to inquire about the situation, just then, a young man in a white robe with sword eyebrows and starry eyes came over. Hello, brother. The young man in the white robe smiled and clasped his fists. Want revenge? Qin Yang asked casually. The young man's clothes were obviously those of the White Sword sect before. Brother, you misunderstood. I'm Guannan, the young master of Beijian sect. I'm really sorry that several of my junior brothers spoke rudely to you today. I came here to apologize. Guannan said sincerely. No need to apologize. I have already vented my anger. What is there to apologize for? Qin Yang narrowed his eyes. Guannan's smile reminded him of someone. Zhao Zinmo. When he first met Zhao Zinmo, this guy also smiled like this. It seemed sincere and friendly, but it was actually a cover-up. That's good. We can be said to have known each other for a long time. Please take care of me in the future. Guannan smiled. We will talk later. Qin Yang responded a little coldly and left. Guannan looked at Qin Yang's back, but he was not angry. He still had a smiling face. Young master, why don't you do it? An old figure emerged from the shadow of the alley. I can't see through him. He is not as simple as you think. It's too reckless to act like this. When we enter the forbidden land of Desolate Moon in the future, we will have plenty of opportunities to deal with him. Guannan smiled. The old figure nodded gently. Everyone in the White Sword sect knew Guannan's character. He seemed humble and polite, but in fact he was very narrow-minded, insidious, and vicious. After nightfall, Huanggai City became even more lively. A large number of lanterns were hung high on both sides of the street, and pedestrians were coming and going. The business of restaurants, brothels, and gambling houses was naturally booming. Qin Yang found the largest restaurant, sat in a corner, and listened quietly to the conversations of people around him. I heard that the strange roars in the Desolate Moon Forbidden Land are becoming more and more frequent. I went to the Desolate Moon Forbidden Land to guard it last night, and I only heard the peaceful chanting of scriptures. Why do everyone hear different sounds? Not only that, some people have seen giant beasts appear in the Desolate Moon Forbidden Land. Speaking of which, I saw the Desolate Moon Forbidden Land shrouded in black fog a few days ago, and vaguely saw many ghost soldiers appearing. Qin Yang was sitting in a corner, and his expression changed slightly when he heard these warriors talking about the desolate moon forbidden land. You know, the desolate moon forbidden land is very large. In the Daewoo dynasty, it is equivalent to the land of a state. You can imagine how terrifying the battle to destroy the sky was. So now that the spiritual energy has revived, it is reasonable that many abnormal phenomena have appeared. Qin Yang was just picking up the wine glass when he heard a faint sword sound. Although the sword sound was weak, Qin Yang's heart was trembling, as if he felt a ray of peerless sword energy coming from the air. Everyone in the restaurant also felt that when they heard the sword sound, many people showed a look of fear. Everyone's head turned to one direction instantly. That was exactly where the desolate moon forbidden land was. The faint sound of swords came from the desolate moon forbidden land. Then, clang clang clang, the restaurant suddenly rang with dense sword sounds. What happened to my sword? Damn it. Don't move. All the sword wielding warriors in the restaurant screamed in shock. They found that their swords seemed to be summoned by something, trembling wildly and making crisp sword sounds. Something must have happened in the desolate moon forbidden land. I want to go and see. I'll go too. For a while, everyone in the restaurant became agitated and rushed directly towards the desolate moon forbidden land. When Qin Yang walked out of the restaurant, he found that everyone in Wanggao City was alarmed and was heading towards the desolate moon forbidden land. Naturally, he would not fall behind, and his figure flashed and disappeared in the distance. Wanggao City is not far from the desolate moon forbidden land, only a dozen miles away. With Qin Yang's footwork, he arrived nearby in half a cup of tea. I saw an ancient stone tablet standing on the ground with 4 big characters written on it. Desolate moon forbidden land. This text is similar to the text of the Great Qin Kingdom. Qin Yang had studied it before and could understand it. With this monument as the boundary, passing this ancient stone monument as a desolate moon forbidden land. Therefore, the warriors and spiritual masters who came from the desolate moon city all stopped in front of this stone monument, not daring to cross the boundary. Someone once tried to step half a foot and then took it back. As a result, after returning, within 3 days, he suddenly died in the house. This is the horror of the desolate moon forbidden land. Even though there are strange phenomena now, no one dares to step into it. Why did the sound of the sword disappear? I don't know. That the desolate moon forbidden land has been moving more and more frequently recently. I really want to go in and see what's going on. Brother, think twice. Many warriors looked at the desolate moon forbidden land in the distance and talked in a low voice. Qin Yang looked around and jumped to the top of a big tree. Standing here, he can clearly see the situation in the desolate moon forbidden land. In the distance, there is a dark and dim wilderness plain, and there is a shadow of the outline of the mountain in the distance. A desolate white moon hung over the mountains. It looked just a little more desolate and quiet than the ordinary plains. But many warriors found that the vibrations of their swords were getting stronger and stronger. Qin Yang heard another sword sound. This sword sound came from afar. Not only him, but all the warriors present heard it. Qin Yang narrowed his eyes and looked. He saw a dazzling white light appearing above the outline of the mountains in the distance. The white light was light and terrifying, as if a dark cloud was raining light. It's not light rain. It's sword rain. Qin Yang muttered to himself. His eyes were sharp, and he could see clearly. The white dots of white light that kept falling were wisps of white sword light. These sword lights kept falling on the outline of the mountains, and the scene was spectacular and beautiful. But Qin Yang felt a terrifying breath of destruction. If this dazzling white light appeared over Wanggao City and sprinkled sword rain, I'm afraid not many people would survive. Is this the method of immortals and Buddhas? Qin Yang muttered to himself. Such a method shocked even him. It was incredible. Roar. A roar like a beast or a ghost suddenly sounded from the outline of the mountain. Then the sword rain sprinkled by the white light became more dense. Is this a battle? Is there anyone alive in the desolate moon forbidden land? Incredible. Everyone's eyes widened and kept looking at this scene. Qin Yang also wanted to see more clearly, but the distance was too far and the outline of the mountain blocked it, so he couldn't see the existence that made the roar. After a long time, the dazzling white light disappeared and the roar like a beast or a ghost also quieted down. Chapter 323 Meeting. Although the unusual movement in the desolate moon mountains ended quietly, none of the warriors who stayed in front of the stone tablet left. The strange phenomena that appeared in the desolate moon forbidden land had never been so spectacular before. This time, it was so big that everyone wanted to know what happened in the desolate moon forbidden land. Could it be that there are still big figures from the ancient times who are still alive and suppressing the ghosts in the desolate moon forbidden land? A warrior asked in surprise. In the Xianfeng continent, the so-called ancient times correspond to the Dacian kingdom period in the Kunshan continent. This is the conclusion Zhao Xinmo came to after a strict comparison. After all, there has never been a unified dynasty in the Xianfeng continent, so it can only be expressed by a certain period. The ancient times are at least tens of thousands of years away from now. How could anyone be alive? I think some old monster stepped into the desolate moon forbidden land and clashed with the evil monsters inside. Someone objected. Not necessarily. This desolate moon forbidden land may have mysterious power that can make people immortal. Another masked swordsman said. For a while, everyone was speculating what happened in the desolate moon mountains, and there were all kinds of wild speculations. More and more people from Huanggu City rushed over. Even on the top of the tree, where Qin Yang was, many warriors jumped up to observe the situation. Of course, they still kept their distance from each other. This was also for their own safety. If they got too close, they would be attacked by someone, and would not have time to react. Qin Yang waited for a while, and when he saw that there was no movement in the desolate moon valley, he left directly. But many people chose to stay to see if there were any other changes in the desolate moon forbidden land. The next day, once the news of the desolate moon forbidden land last night spread, it seemed that more forces were alarmed and sent people over. I heard that people from the 7-star sect rushed to Huanggu City overnight. Someone also saw the old monk from the Jai temple. Those guys from the Xianjian sect are here too. Many holy places have been alarmed, and it seems that they really have to enter the desolate moon forbidden land to find out what's going on this time. After so many years, the mystery of the desolate moon forbidden land should be revealed. In the restaurant, Qin Yang drank while listening to the conversations of nearby warriors. When he heard the names of these sects, his eyes flashed. There are countless sects and forces in Xianfeng continent, among which there are more than a dozen forces that are the oldest and largest, and it is said that they have been passed down from ancient times to the present. These sects and forces are called holy places. First-class sects such as Lisha sect and Qianqin sect are far behind the holy places in terms of foundation and power. Kaixing sect, Jai temple, and Qianjian sect are among the holy places. Even these holy places were alarmed, which can only be said that the commotion caused by the desolate moon forbidden land was too big. Why hasn't Zhao Xinmo come yet? If he doesn't come again, I won't wait. Qin Yang muttered in his heart again. These holy places keep appearing in Huanggu City, and they should soon enter the desolate moon forbidden land to explore. He naturally wanted to enter as soon as possible, but now he can only wait and see. Huanggu City Lord's Mansion. Quiet tea room. The faint fragrance of tea is floating everywhere. Several extraordinary figures are sitting together. A middle-aged Taoist wearing a 7-star Taoist robe. An old monk with white eyebrows and a compassionate temperament. An old man with sharp features and sharp eyes. You three came here together. I guess you came for the matter of the desolate moon forbidden land. Jiangsheng, with grey hair and gentle temperament, smiled. Jiangsheng is well known in Huanggu City because he is the mayor of Huanggu City, and he has been the mayor for more than 20 years. Being able to sit in this position safely in such a mixed environment as Huanggu City is enough to see a hint of his power. Master Jiang, what do you think of the unusual movement in Desolate Moon City this time? The old monk with white eyebrows asked directly. Master Baimei, no one can know about the matter of the Desolate Moon Forbidden Land. We can only go in and find out. Jiangsheng said seriously. Then let's fight into the Desolate Moon Forbidden Land. The four of us will join forces, even if there is a complete resurrection of ghost species in the depths of the Desolate Moon Forbidden Land. We may not lose. The old man from Xianjian said. Don't worry. Wait for another day. I just received news that people from Zuxan sect will also come. The Taoist of Kaixing smiled. Then wait another day. The old man from Xianjian sect could only agree reluctantly. Soon, the news that the 4 major holy places joined forces to explore the desolate moon forbidden land spread in Wangailu city. For a time, all forces became excited and were ready to follow the 4 major holy places into the desolate moon forbidden land. With the 4 major holy places leading the way, many warriors naturally became bolder. You know, countless strong men have fallen in the desolate moon forbidden land, and no one has ever entered it to explore in so many years. This shows that there are endless opportunities inside. There may even be a way to become an immortal. And Qin Yang finally waited for Zhao Zinmo's arrival. Qin Yang carried a talisman on him. Zhao Zinmo sensed his position as soon as he entered the city. After finding a random reason to leave the Qin sect team, he came all the way to the courtyard rented by Qin Yang. If you don't come again, I'll go in by myself, Qin Yang said speechlessly. He didn't expect Zhao Zinmo to be so slow. There was an accident on the way, which delayed us for a while. Besides, this is just right. We can follow the 4 major sects and holy places into the desolate moon forbidden land tomorrow. Zhao Zinmo smiled. Then will you follow Kinman tomorrow? Qin Yang asked. Well, there is a martial saint in the Kinman team this time, so it should be quite safe. We split our troops into 2 groups, and the harvest will be greater. Zhao Zinmo smiled. That's good. Qin Yang nodded. Tell me what happened in the desolate moon forbidden land these days. Zhao Zinmo asked curiously. The noise was louder a few nights ago. Qin Yang told about the white sword drain and the mysterious roaring confrontation. An old monster who has lived from ancient times to the present. Could he really become an immortal? Zhao Zinmo muttered. Only an immortal can accept that someone can live so long. I don't know what exactly was the reason for the battle to destroy the sky back then. Do you know? Qin Yang asked. He has been asking about this question for the past few days, but he has no clue. With the frequent unusual movements in the desolate moon forbidden land, the news of the heaven-destroying war has long been known to everyone, but the reason for the outbreak of the heaven-destroying war seems to be unknown to everyone. I have also searched through the classics of the Thousand Birds sect. I have also secretly asked the old martial saint of the Thousand Birds sect, but there is no result. Maybe only those holy places that have been passed down from ancient times to the present know what is going on. Zhao Zinmo shook his head. Is that so? Qin Yang narrowed his eyes. In fact, you should have guessed it. It must be related to the forbidden art of isolating the world. Although the forbidden art of isolating the world was effective before the heaven-destroying war, ghosts still descended. But after the heaven-destroying war, the spiritual energy became exhausted, and no ghosts descended. In other words, after the heaven-destroying war, the forbidden art of isolating the world has been strengthened. Zhao Zinmo said softly. Chapter 324 Speculation. Qin Yang had already noticed Zhao Zinmo's analysis. If there is another battle of destroying the sky, can the forbidden art of separating the heaven and earth be restored? Qin Yang suddenly had an idea. How should I know? After all, I don't know much about what this battle of destroying the sky is about. But I feel that these holy places are so anxious to enter the forbidden land of desolate moon, and I'm afraid they also have this in mind. Maybe they also want to know why the battle of destroying the sky can strengthen the forbidden art of separating the heaven and earth. Zhao Zinmo guessed. It seems that we still have to enter the forbidden land of desolate moon to know the truth. Qin Yang said softly. Well, be careful. This forbidden land of desolate moon is not an ordinary place. Even you have to be careful. Zhao Zinmo reminded. You too. Call me if there is anything. Qin Yang nodded. After the two of them talked for another half an hour, Zhao Zinmo left. The next day, there was a huge crowd in front of the stone tablet of the forbidden land of desolate moon. People from several major holy places stood in the front. Jiangsheng, the Taoist in the 7-star robe, the white-browed monk, the old man with a sword on his back, and a woman in palace dress gathered together. This time we enter the desolate moon forbidden land. We will split into 5 groups, and we hope to gain something. The Taoist in the 7-star robe said. Take care, everyone. Jiangsheng said in a deep voice. No one has been able to walk out of the desolate moon forbidden land for so many years. They naturally have no idea what to do when they enter this time. But they must also find out the secrets of the desolate moon forbidden land and spread the news. Amitabha. The old monk with white eyebrows clasped his hands together. The old man with a sword on his back said nothing. "Let's go," the woman in palace dress said in a deep voice. The next moment, they rushed into the desolate moon forbidden land with their own sects and acted separately. The 4 sacred lands and Jiangsheng have all taken people in. What are you still doing? Let's go in too. Charge, charge, charge. Seeing the people from the 4 sacred lands rushing in, the warriors could no longer hold back. First, the first-rate sects quickly led their people in, and then some warriors who lived on the edge of a knife and walked alone. Qin Yang looked at Zhao Zhenmo and followed the people from the Qin sect into the desolate moon forbidden land. He stopped watching and patted the green bull beside him, saying, "Go in." The green bull monster, who had long obeyed Qin Yang's orders, held the ground tightly with its 4 hooves and refused to move. It kept shaking its head at Qin Yang. "Are you scared, beast?" Qin Yang said in surprise. The green bull nodded hurriedly. "You have to go in even if you're scared. Your ancestors may be in there." Qin Yang glared at the green bull. The green bull saw Qin Yang's deep dark eyes and trembled. It seemed to accept its fate and walked towards the desolate moon forbidden land helplessly. When it stepped over the ancient stone tablet and took the first step into the desolate moon forbidden land, Qin Yang didn't feel anything different. The green bull hid behind Qin Yang, looking alert. "Let's go and take a look over there," Qin Yang said in a deep voice. After entering the desolate moon forbidden land, many sects and forces went their separate ways to explore this mysterious place. Qin Yang wanted to go to the mountain range where the white sword drain appeared before. The desolate moon forbidden land is an endless wilderness, but the terrain is complex and varied. There are mountain gullies like dragons, wild forests, and even swamps. As Qin Yang continued to go deeper, no one could be seen in the wilderness. Only he and the blue bull monster were left, as well as wild grass and trees. No. A scream came from the front. It happened before we walked more than 10 miles. Qin Yang narrowed his eyes. He went towards the scream. A stone statue appeared in Qin Yang's eyes. This is a stone statue of a swordsman with a black scarf on his face. His facial features are full of fear. He holds a long sword in his right hand, as if he is fighting with something. Qin Yang circled around the stone statue. He felt that it was the stone statue that made the scream before. This guy seemed to have triggered some curse and turned into a stone statue. In the process of turning into a stone statue, the black turbaned swordsman naturally screamed in despair. "What kind of power is this?" Qin Yang narrowed his eyes. This desolate moon forbidden land is really full of dangers. He was about to take the green ox away, but he was stunned when he turned back. A lifelike stone statue of a green ox appeared behind him. The green ox, surprisingly, also turned into a stone statue. The 2 cow eyes were looking at Qin Yang, as if asking him for help. So weird. Qin Yang's scalp was numb. At this moment, he suddenly felt that his legs became heavy and stiff, unable to move. When Qin Yang lowered his head, his face suddenly changed. He saw that his legs were slowly petrifying. Feet, calves, thighs. The petrification speed was very fast, and it was about to spread to the waist and penetrate into the internal organs. Qin Yang could only watch helplessly. At this moment, Qin Yang suddenly laughed. So this is the case. No wonder the previous person was it. The next moment, Qin Yang, who was mostly petrified, suddenly returned to his original appearance. The green bull beside him did not turn into a stone statue either, but a pair of copper bell eyes flashed with a little fear. "You were also tricked?" Qin Yang asked. The green bull nodded quickly. "It seems that you are quite smart." Qin Yang smiled. He looked at the stone statue again. There should be some kind of cursed strange power nearby. This power will make people hallucinate and imagine that they are petrified. When ordinary people encounter this kind of situation, they will naturally panic. Being in a strange place like the desolate moon forbidden land, they will be even more panicked. Then, they will be completely petrified. In fact, it is very simple to crack this strange power. As long as the heart is firm and calm enough, and the blood flow in the body is felt, you can know that you are not really petrified. So Qin Yang was not petrified in the end, because he always knew that what he saw and felt was just an illusion. It was the green bull demon who got rid of this illusion that surprised Qin Yang. "Let's go." Qin Qin Yang shook his head slightly and led the green bull demon deeper into the desolate moon forbidden land. The sun sets, and the night is particularly dark tonight, without any starlight. The desolate moon forbidden land is even more dark and silent. This undoubtedly creates terrible pressure for those who enter the desolate moon forbidden land. After all, at night, there are many strange movements in the desolate moon forbidden land for no reason. Brother Wang, this desolate moon forbidden land is dangerous. After nightfall, there are even more strange noises. Why don't we find a place to settle down first? Chen Qian suggested. This is a team of 5 people, all of whom are rangers without any sect or school. When entering a dangerous place like the desolate moon forbidden land, even most rangers who are used to being alone will choose to explore in a team. The leader of this team is a burly man with a huge axe on his back. This man is called Wang Meng, and he is known as the mountain opening axe in the Jianghu. He has the cultivation level of Tangxuan realm, and is quite powerful. Wang Meng looked around. He saw a wilderness shadow, and the mountains in the distance were even more hideous and terrifying. This desolate moon forbidden land has become exceptionally dark, cold, and terrifying. Well, we can't go any further. Find a safe place and rest, Wang Meng said in a deep voice. Chapter 325 Lantern. The 5 walked forward for a while in the dark forbidden land of desolate moon, and then stopped near a huge rock. This is all wilderness plains. Let's camp here, Wang Meng said softly. Chen Qian and his friends explored the area nearby, and after confirming that there was no problem, they agreed. In a place like the forbidden land of desolate moon, naturally no one dared to light a bonfire, because lighting a bonfire in such a dark wilderness plain would make the target too obvious. Several people formed a circle, facing forward, and paying attention to the movement nearby at any time. They didn't need to rest at all. Warriors at this level no longer need sleep. They stayed here just because they didn't want to go to some strange and dangerous places. So they simply stopped and waited for sunrise before taking action. Chen Qian sat cross-legged in meditation, his expression tense, looking forward, without blinking. This was a night in the forbidden land of desolate moon, so he couldn't help but be nervous. Maybe because his eyes were open for too long, Chen Qian couldn't help but blink. The next moment, his eyes suddenly widened. Front Chen Qian let out a low roar of fear. Wang Meng and his friends were instantly startled and looked in the direction of Chen Qian. A few dozen meters away, the outline of a building appeared at some point. The building looked very gloomy, like a temple, with 2 scarlet lanterns hanging on it, and a red glow. This scene would be scary enough if it appeared in the wilderness, let alone a place like the forbidden land of desolate moon. Wang Meng and others instantly became nervous and scared. Just now, there should not be this temple. Chen Qian calmed down a little. I know this temple should have appeared later. Wang Meng frowned. What should we do now? Asked an accomplice. Leave here and don't get entangled with this temple, Wang Meng said directly. Chen Qian and others nodded one after another, followed Wang Meng, and went in the opposite direction of the temple building. Everyone used their body skills, and their bodies rushed, like lightning for half an hour before stopping. Chen Qian looked back, and the temple building naturally did not appear in his eyes. No, the temple did not follow us. Chen Qian breathed a sigh of relief. Wang Meng also looked back and nodded gently. Then don't run away, you might end up in some weird place. They found another open space and sat down to calm their minds. That temple. A frightened voice sounded. Wang Meng was startled and turned his head to look. The mysterious lantern with a red lantern appeared behind them again. And this time, it was closer. Only 5 or 6 meters. Even Wang Meng could see the plaque of the gloomy temple. Evil Ghost Temple. What temple is this? Wang Meng's heart tightened. Chen Qian and others were even more numb and sweating. It seems to be getting closer and closer to us. Someone trembled. Keep running. Chen Qian looked at Wang Meng. Run. Wang Meng gritted his teeth. This time, they ran wildly in the black wilderness for more than an hour. They ran into a mountain forest. Where are we running to? Chen Qian's eyes kept looking around. This seemed to be a bamboo forest. But the next second, a dozen red lanterns suddenly lit up in the air. A strange temple appeared in front of them. Hey, a strange laugh rang out in the bamboo forest. Damn it. It seems that running is useless. This temple will not let us go tonight. Wang Meng looked fierce and pulled out his giant axe. Although Chen Kan and others were also afraid, they also pulled out their weapons. With a snap, the wooden door of the gloomy temple was suddenly pushed open. Countless red lanterns flew out. A terrifying human face vaguely appeared on each red lantern. These human faces laughed abnormally and crazily. Finally someone came in. "Come and join us. We will make your human skin into lanterns." Hehe, the terrifying and gloomy laughter echoed in the bamboo forest. "I'll chop you first." Wang Meng roared wildly, holding the giant axe in both hands and slashing. Bang, 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 the giant axe drew an exaggerated arc, smashing a series of scarlet lanterns alive. But after the lanterns were smashed, they turned into scarlet flames and fell on Wang Meng. Zzzz, Wang Meng did not feel the burning heat all over his body, but felt countless terrifying and violent emotions suddenly emerged in his mind, swallowing up and annihilating his reason. The next moment, he swung the axe again. Puff! A fellow ranger was caught off guard and was actually split into two by his axe. Wang Meng is crazy. Damn it, what should we do? Run. The remaining 3 people became extremely panicked. Chen Kan was still able to maintain a trace of rationality and suddenly hit with both hands. He was at the back, and the 2 rangers in front of him were attacked from the back by surprise. Under the impact of the palm force, they seemed to rush towards Wang Meng. "Chen Kan, you deserve to die." The 2 rangers roared in anger, but could only fight with Wang Meng desperately. Chen Kan seized the opportunity, dodging the strange red lanterns, and then left the bamboo forest. In the dark and gloomy desolate moon forbidden land, a strong figure and a green bull were walking. "It seems nothing is happening at night," Qin Yang muttered. The green bull couldn't help rolling his eyes when he heard this. If it understood human language, it would probably confront Qin Yang directly. Although it didn't know what the desolate moon forbidden land was, the monster's innate intuition told it that there were countless terrible dangers hidden here. At this moment, a figure stumbled from the front. "Help! Save me!" The man saw Qin Yang and ran over quickly, as if he saw a savior. "What's wrong with you?" Qin Yang looked at the man who suddenly appeared calmly. The man had disheveled hair, a pale face, and a panicked expression. "Behind me, there is a temple chasing me behind me," Chen Kan said incoherently. "A temple chasing you? Brother, are you serious?" Qin Yang asked in surprise. "Really? The people who were traveling with me were killed. I'm the only one who escaped," Chen Kan explained hurriedly. "Interesting. Take me to see it. I've never seen a temple that chases people." Qin Yang laughed. Chen Kan was stunned when he heard this. "That temple is scary. Let's run first," Chen Kan said anxiously. "Are you sure you can still run? Your heart seems to be gone," Qin Yang said lightly. Chen Kan lowered his head. He saw a terrifying bloody hole in his chest where his heart was. I escaped. No, it's impossible. How could I be dead?" Chen Kan's mood suddenly became irritable. "It's you. You must not be a human. You must be an evil spirit, interfering with my eyes. It must be." Chen Kan became crazy like a beast and pounced on Qin Yang. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.